Chapter 3304. Betrayal. Crepe Myrtle Star nodded and said with a bitter smile, "It seems that I can only follow you for now. Let's leave this place first. I'm afraid that the Phoenix Master will be back soon. We'd better leave this place before the Phoenix Master returns. Otherwise, it'll be troublesome," Zhuan said as he led Crepe Myrtle Star out of the tunnel. However, when he walked out of the entrance, he found that the snake-faced man was waiting for them outside. Zhuan also noticed that the snake-faced man's face was full of panic. When the snake-faced man saw Zhuan come out, he heaved a sigh of relief. "What's wrong?" Zhuan asked with a frown. "Master Zhua, the Phoenix people's main city has been surrounded. Suo Yingda and the others have collectively defected to the Phoenix people and are planning to crusade against you," the snake-faced man said anxiously. Suo Yingda has defected? Zhuowen's pupils constricted as he found it unbelievable. Suo Yingda and the others had obtained a lot of benefits from the Phoenix people and were once captured by the Phoenix people into the Phoenix Purgatory. He did not believe that Suo Yingda and the others would change sides so easily. In his opinion, Suo Yingda and the others should have fled far away with the benefits they had obtained. That's not it. The Phoenix Master, Feng Lilua, has returned. Suo Yingda and the others had just left the main city of the Phoenix people when they were captured by the Phoenix Master. In order to survive, Suo Yingda and the others collectively defected to the Phoenix people. They even tried to defame you, Master Zhua, and put all the blame on you. The snake-faced man sighed. Zhuan nodded. While the snake-faced man was speaking, he used the torch dragon's eye and saw a godlike figure floating quietly in front of the countless subordinate races' armies outside the main city. This figure was the Phoenix Master, Feng Liu. At Feng Lilua's feet were Suo Yingda and the other 7 Skirich experts who had just left the main city. Zhuan could clearly see the flattering smiles on Suo Yingda and the others' faces. Zhuowen frowned slightly. He was a little surprised that Feng Lilua was so fast. She had actually rushed back so quickly. While Zhuan was lost in thought, Feng Lilua led Suo Yingda and the other heaven-reaching sovereign experts through the formation outside and into the main city. Zhuan looked at the array flag in Feng Lilua's hand and knew why she could enter the array so easily. "Are you Zhuowen?" Feng Lilua looked down at Zhuowen from high above. Her eyes were filled with suppressed anger and coldness. Zhuan did not pay attention to Feng Lilua. Instead, he looked at Suo Yingda and the others and said indifferently, "I refined divine pills to raise your cultivation and brought you out of the undying bird purgatory. I also let you obtain many resources from the Phoenix people's treasury. I thought that all of you would know how to be grateful for what I've done. But now, I realize that I was wrong. You guys are a bunch of people who bite the hand that feeds you." Suo Yingda did not avoid Zhuowen's gaze and said mockingly, "Don't put on an act. What you did was only for yourself. You only wanted to use us to fight for you against the Phoenix people. And the resources in the Phoenix people's treasury were all snatched away by you. We didn't get anything at all. Now, you have the nerve to say that you let us obtain many resources from the treasury. How can you have the face to say such words?" The snake-faced man was so angry that smoke was coming out of his 7 orifices. He almost cursed back. Unfortunately, Thon stopped him. "So that's what you're thinking? That's just as well. Now that you and I are enemies, I will never show mercy to my enemies," Zhuowen said. The killing intent in his eyes was so terrifying that it seemed to have materialized. Suo Yingda sneered and immediately said to Feng Lilua beside him, "Lord Phoenix Master, in order to show my loyalty, I am willing to take action for you. I will take down this traitor and let you deal with him." Suo Yingda had never seen Zhuowen truly fight, so he always thought that Zhuowen's strength was not much. The reason why Crepe Myrtle Star followed Zhuowen was mainly because of Zhuowen's superb alchemy and formation skills. Therefore, Suo Yingda had never placed Zhuowen in his eyes. Suo Yingda even somewhat despised Zhuowen. In every battle, he basically relied on Crepe Myrtle Star and them. In his heart, he still somewhat looked down on Zhuowen. "Go ahead. With your strength, you should be able to kill this child. As for Crepe Myrtle Star, since he killed 2 of the Phoenix people's mysterious flame protectors, then he will pay for it with his life." Feng Lua also did not pay much attention to Zhuan. Although Zhuan had killed a sky-piercing master expert, he was at most an early-stage sky-piercing master expert. In Feng Lilua's opinion, a mid-stage sky-piercing master expert like Suoing Da was enough to get rid of Zhuan. At this moment, Feng Lilua's attention was basically focused on Crepe Myrtle Star. The killing intent in her eyes grew stronger and stronger. Lord Phoenix Master, don't worry. I won't let you down. Suoing Da chuckled and stomped his right foot. Like a meteor, he fell towards Zhuan. Crepe Myrtle Star blocked in front of Zhuan and went up to meet him. However, the moment Crepe Myrtle Star attacked, an extremely terrifying pressure crushed down on his body, causing him to feel an unprecedented pressure. Therefore, a terrifying energy suddenly blasted over, causing him to feel a sense of crisis in the face of life and death. Crepe Myrtle Star clenched his right hand into a fist and suddenly punched out. Black flames shot out, forming waves of black flames that whistled out. Bang! Crepe Myrtle Star's attack collided with that energy. He groaned and was directly sent flying. He barely stabilized his body hundreds of meters away. Only then did he see clearly that the owner of that energy was Feng Lilua. At this moment, Feng Lilua and Crepe Myrtle Star were facing each other from a distance. She looked at Crepe Myrtle Star in surprise and said, "It's the energy of the undying bird. It seems that you have obtained the inheritance of the undying bird. No wonder you were willing to enter the undying bird's purgatory. So your purpose was not pure. But this is also good. After I capture you alive, I will personally extract the inheritance of the undying bird from your body and use it for myself." Feng Lilua smiled faintly. She stomped her right foot and instantly disappeared. When she reappeared, she was already in front of Crepe Myrtle Star. Crepe Myrtle Star's eyes were solemn. He felt a great pressure. Feng Lilua's strength was too terrifying. She was definitely not an ordinary late-stage sky-reaching master. Bang, bang, bang. Crepe Myrtle Star's body was burning with black flames, while Feng Lilua was spitting out fiery red flames. The two flame-like figures kept colliding in midair. Terrifying energy ripples spread out as if the end of the world was coming. Chapter 3305. A battle between the strong Jin. Do you know why I change sides so easily? It's mainly because of your insatiable greed. If you had shared all the resources with us when we were in the treasury, we wouldn't have betrayed you. Do you regret it now? But it's useless even if you regret it. Today you will die at my hands. Suoing Da's broadsword fiercely slashed down, and a sinister voice followed. He wanted to see Zhuowen's regretful expression and then die with hatred. However, it was a pity that Zhuowen's gaze was very calm. He stood where he was as black fog surged out from him. Within the black mist, a scroll appeared, blocking in front of Suoing Da's broadsword. Bang! This scroll was very hard. Suoing Da's full force slash was actually unable to cut the scroll in half. Immediately after, Suoing Da was stunned to find that the scroll quickly opened, and dozens of pitch-black chains emerged from it, surrounding him in all directions. They suddenly contracted and tied him up. Suoing Da coldly snorted. He felt that these chains were just a small trick and did not care at all. He suddenly raised the broadsword in his hand, and densely packed blade shadows spread out like a storm, standing on top of the chains. Unfortunately, these chains were too hard. The blade shadows had no effect on these chains at all. Instead, after being stimulated, they quickly contracted and tightly bound Suoing Da. The moment he touched the chains, Suoing Da involuntarily screamed. The intense pain that penetrated deep into his spirit made him feel as if he was better off dead. The moment he was absent-minded, the chains wrapped around his body like ivy. His entire body was tightly bound like a dumpling. An even more intense pain directly entered Suoing Da's spirit, causing him to scream again and again. The moment Suoing Da was bound, he opened the second layer of the Yama ghost diagram. 4 malevolent demons and monsters were released, turning into 4 black shadows that rushed towards Suoing Da. "What are you still standing there for? Come and help me get rid of this Zhuan." The moment Suoing Da saw the 4 demons and monsters, he immediately had a bad feeling and hurriedly shouted to his 6 companions. These 6 outsiders had been trapped in the undying bird purgatory and had only reached their current level of cultivation after receiving Zhuowen's divine pills. At that moment, they had all defected to Feng Lilua's side. They knew very well that if they did not kill Zhuowen, he would definitely kill them in the future. The 6 non-humankind beings transformed into 6 streams of light and blocked the way of those monsters. Unfortunately, the Qi Mei and Wang Liang were simply too powerful. 2 of the evil spirits easily took care of 4 of the early transcending heaven lords. As for the other 2 mid-10th heaven master foreign beings, they weren't immediately taken care of, but they were easily suppressed by the 2 wraiths in front of them, so it was only a matter of time before they were defeated. Sua Yingda's pupils shrank. He knew that he had to save himself. Otherwise, he would really die here. Sua Yingda's blood and qi surged, and his aura soared. The chains on his body exploded. Sua Yingda broke free from the broken chains and did not help his 2 remaining companions. Instead, he quickly fled. In the previous exchange, Sua Yingda had a clear understanding of how terrifying Zhuowen's strength was. If he continued to tangle with Zhuowen, he would most likely be defeated. Therefore, Sua Yingda retreated. Unfortunately, Sua Yingda wanted to escape, but Zhuowen was not prepared to let him go. With a thought, the other 2 wraiths quickly caught up to Sua Yingda and completely entangled him. The 4 wraiths were all mid-10th heaven masters, and not ordinary mid-10th heaven masters. Although Sua Yingda was a peak mid-10th heaven master, 2 wraiths were more than enough to entangle him. When Zhuowen saw that the 4 wraiths had already entangled Sua Yingda and the other 2 foreign beings, he no longer paid attention to them. Instead, he focused on the battle between Plate Myrtle Star and Feng Lilua. The battle between Plate Myrtle Star and Feng Lilua was becoming more and more terrifying. The entire sky above the Phoenix people's main city was enveloped by the 2's flame energy, forming 2 different colored seas of fire. However, the 2 seas of fire were clearly separated, as if they were on equal footing. However, if one looked carefully, the Black Sea of Fire was vaguely being suppressed by the Red Sea of Fire. Between the 2 seas of fire, 2 figures that looked like gods and devils were constantly fighting. These 2 figures were naturally Plate Myrtle Star and Feng Lilua. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with worry. Plate Myrtle Star had just become a late 10th heaven master, and the gap between him and a veteran late 10th heaven master like Feng Lilua was not small. He could see that Plate Myrtle Star had many injuries on his body, and they were not light. However, Plate Myrtle Star was still holding on. Plate Myrtle Star, your strength is not bad. If I'm not wrong, you should have just become a late 10th heaven master not long ago. To be able to fight with me to this extent, you're not bad. Unfortunately, you've become an enemy of me and the entire Phoenix people. That's just courting death. Feng Lua placed her hands behind her back and stepped on the endless red sea of fire. With a disdainful look, she coldly looked at Plate Myrtle Star, whose mouth was bleeding. Plate Myrtle Star, I'll give you a chance to live. Take the initiative to hand over the undying bird's inheritance to me, and I'll spare your lowly life. Feng Lilua said confidently. You're dreaming. Feng Lilua, you're indeed stronger than me, but it won't be that easy for you to take me down. Also, you forgot that you're not facing me alone. Plate Myrtle Star said mockingly. Feng Lilua sneered and said, Are you talking about Zhuowen? I'm really sorry. Other than Zhuowen's talent in the Tao of Formations, how strong could he be in terms of combat? I'm afraid he's already been dealt with by Sua Yingda and the others. When Feng Lilua spoke up to this point, he suddenly stopped. When his divine consciousness casually swept over Zhuowen's side, he discovered that 4 of the 7 foreign races that had besieged Zhuowen had already fallen. The other 3, including Sua Yingda, were entangled by 4 evil spirits with terrifying auras. Moreover, they were in a precarious situation. This guy, Feng Lua was shocked. She originally thought that Zhuowen would be easily dealt with by Sua Yingda and the others. But now, she saw that things were going against her wishes. What bullshit, Phoenix Master. Today, I'll kill you too. At this moment, Zhuowen's voice was heard, causing Feng Lilua to fly into a rage. Feng Lilua looked at Zhuowen and saw Zhuowen standing in the ruins. Zhuowen raised his head proudly and fearlessly looked at her face to face. His eyes were filled with coldness and mockery. Feng Lilua felt very uncomfortable with Zhuowen's gaze. She suddenly slapped her right hand, and an endless sea of fire formed a giant palm that blasted toward Zhuowen below. Plape Myrtle Star wanted to stop her, but he was firmly locked onto by Feng Lilua's aura. As long as Plape Myrtle Star dared to move, Feng Lilua would definitely attack. This put Plape Myrtle Star in a dilemma. This Zhuowen has some skills, but in front of absolute power, he's like a piece of paper, unable to withstand a single blow. Feng Lilua mocked. Chapter 3306. SS4 arrows shot together. The instant the flaming hand was destroyed, Feng Lilua could not help but frown. He felt rather surprised. He had never thought that Zhuowen would be able to break through his attack. But very soon, Feng Lilua sensed that something was off. However, after the flaming hand was destroyed, an arrow shot towards him like a bolt of lightning. The aura that the arrow gave off was just too terrifying. Even Feng Lilua's expression changed slightly. Feng Lilua's gaze became stern. He waved his sleeve, and the sea of fire in the surroundings suddenly surged with terrifying waves, enveloping the arrow. However, to Feng Lilua's surprise, the arrow displayed extremely great penetrative power. It instantly pierced through the waves and arrived before him. Feng Lilua threw a punch with his right hand. It contained terrifying flame energy. Bang! Feng Lilua's eyes narrowed. His right hand had actually been pierced by the arrow, causing blood to spurt out. However, with Feng Lilua's powerful strength, she managed to completely stop that powerful arrow. Ho Yi's godly arrow? Feng Lilua's right hand was covered in blood. He grabbed the arrow with his left hand and immediately recognized the arrow that had attacked him. Was it not Ho Yi's godly arrow? However, there were no blood stains on the surface of the arrow. Instead, it was as clean as a new arrow. Brother Ziwei, do it now. Zhuowen stood above the ruins. He held Ho Yi's godly arrow and roared at Ziwei Star-Lord. The instant Feng Lilua caught the arrow with his bare hands, Zhuowen knew that Feng Lilua was terrifying. He was not someone that ordinary late sky-reaching lord could compare to. Ziwei Star-Lord also reacted. He stomped his right foot, and boundless black flames surged. They formed a huge undying bird that blotted out the sky and smashed towards Feng Lilua. After blocking Ho Yi's godly arrow, Feng Lilua originally wanted to deal a vicious blow to Zhuowen. However, Ziwei Star-Lord interfered and held him back. Piss off! Feng Lilua and Ziwei Star-Lord collided fiercely, forcing Ziwei Star-Lord back. However, Purple Star Sovereign was extremely stubborn. He kept standing in front of Feng Lilua. Although his injuries were getting worse, it was still not enough for Feng Lilua to kill him. Moreover, Feng Lilua was careless just now and was injured by Ho Yi's divine arrow, causing her strength to drop. Although it did not decrease by much, to the Purple Myrtle Star Monarch, it was a bit easier than when he fought against Feng Lilua. This Feng Lilua is definitely not an ordinary late-stage sky-reaching master. If you want to injure her, you must draw the Ho Yi Godly Bow to the fullest. Unleash the full potential of the Ho Yi Godly Bow. Zhuowen looked at the Ho Yi Divine Bow in his hand. Back when he was in the Phoenix Purgatory, he could only draw the Ho Yi Divine Bow to 3/4 of its original length. However, he knew that if he went all out, he would be able to draw the Ho Yi Divine Bow to a full moon. However, the price he had to pay would be great. He would definitely be seriously injured. However, he didn't have the time to think about this. He had to severely injure the Phoenix Master. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to leave the Phoenix people's main city area alive. Zhuowen took out the best healing pills he had and put them into his mouth one by one, just in case he needed them. After finishing his preparations, Zhuowen took out a Ho Yi Godly arrow, put it on the bowstring and pulled it. In just an instant, he pulled the bowstring to 3/4 of its original length. The terrifying resistance acted on Zhuowen's arms, causing the muscles on his arms to tighten and the veins to burst. Open! Zhuowen roared and pulled the bowstring to a full moon. Then he aimed at Feng Lilua and released the bowstring. A series of thunderous booms rang out. Then, a terrifying storm swept through the area. A huge crater appeared where Zhuowen was standing, and he was standing in the middle of the crater. Puchi. At the same time, the bulging veins on Zhuowen's arms burst. Blood splashed out, and his arms drooped down powerlessly. His arms were severely injured. Even with his Panga's sacred body, it would take him a long time to recover. However, Zhuowen knew that he didn't have much time to recover. He immediately swallowed the healing pills in his mouth. The powerful medicinal power spread throughout his body. Zhuowen guided the medicinal power to his arms and chest, healing his broken meridians and bones. When he could feel his arms again, Zhuowen immediately took out a pile of healing pills from the macro world and put them into his mouth. He took out another Hou-Yi godly arrow and pulled the bowstring to a full moon. At the cost of being severely injured, he shot out the arrow. Zhuowen shot out a total of 4 Hou-Yi godly arrows. All 4 of them were in their complete states. They were many times more powerful than the 3 incomplete ones he got from the Phoenix People's treasury. Boom! The first Hou-Yi godly arrow was extremely fast. Wherever it passed, it made an ear-piercing sound of thunder as it rushed toward Feng Lilua. Feng Lilua was firmly suppressing Crepe Myrtle's star. However, he wasn't in a good mood. His right arm, which was injured by the Hou-Yi godly arrow, was recovering with difficulty. It was difficult for experts at Feng Lilua's level to be injured. Once they were injured, the amount of energy they needed to recover was much more than those with lower cultivation. Moreover, it was a terrifying divine weapon like the Hou-Yi godly arrow that injured him. His recovery was even slower. It was because his right arm was injured that he couldn't use his full strength. According to his current situation, he could completely take down Crepe Myrtle's star if he used his full strength. However, he still couldn't take down Crepe Myrtle's star. This made Feng Lilua a little anxious. When Feng Lilua punched Crepe Myrtle's star and planned to chase after him, a terrifying and familiar energy fluctuation came from below. Feng Lilua immediately saw the Hou-Yi godly arrow coming from below. Damn it! This guy shot out a second Hou-Yi godly arrow? Feng Lilua was both shocked and furious. He stomped with his right foot, and the terrifying flames around him whistled out, blocking the Hou-Yi godly arrow. After suffering a loss once, Feng Lilua naturally learned his lesson. He didn't dare to face the Hou-Yi godly arrow head-on. Boom! Unfortunately, the terrifying sea of flames immediately dispersed upon contact with the Hou-Yi godly arrow. It dispersed so quickly that even Feng Lilua found it unbelievable. Under Feng Lilua's shocked gaze, the Hou-Yi godly arrow arrived before him in an instant. Feng Lilua instinctively used his remaining left hand to block. There were fiery red patterns on his left palm that condensed terrifying energy. Without a doubt, Feng Lilua's left hand was much more powerful than his right hand. His right hand didn't have such patterns at all. Terrifying flames suddenly erupted from the patterns on Feng Lilua's left palm. They formed the illusion of a phoenix and shot towards the Hou-Yi godly arrow. The terrifying and scorching illusion of a phoenix blocked the Hou-Yi godly arrow, causing it to stop several meters away from Feng Lilua's left palm. However, very soon, Feng Lilua discovered that something was wrong. He heard the sound of another arrow being released from below. Then, a second Hou-Yi godly arrow shot over and struck the tail of the first Hou-Yi godly arrow. Puchi! The powerful force caused Feng Lilua to involuntarily spit out a mouthful of blood. His face paled. However, very soon, Feng Lilua discovered to his horror that another sound of another arrow being released from below. Then, a third Hou-Yi godly arrow shot over. He spat out a mouthful of blood and continuously retreated. His entire body trembled. He was almost unable to hold on. The power of 3 Hou-Yi godly arrows was too terrifying. Chapter 3307. Regretful Soindawush. The fourth arrow pierced through the air and arrived before Feng Lilua in an instant. The sharp tip of the arrow flickered with a cold light as it pressed against the tail of the divine arrow. Immediately, the power of the 3 divine arrows that were originally connected to each other changed qualitatively when the fourth divine arrow was added into the divine arrows. Boom! A terrifying muffled sound spread out from all directions like muffled thunder. Afterwards, The 4 Hou-Yi gods' arrows that were connected head to tail completely destroyed the talisman power on Feng Lilua's left arm like flying fish. They sank into her left arm. Puchi! Feng Lua couldn't help but scream. The 4 Hou-Yi divine arrows with terrifying power all sank into his left arm. In the blink of an eye, his left arm exploded into a bloody mist from the terrifying power. Moreover, the power of the 4 Hou-Yi divine arrows was too terrifying. Even Feng Lilua's left shoulder and left chest were blasted into a bloody mess. If it weren't for Feng Lilua's prompt decision and quick retreat, he would have been completely dismembered by the 4 Hou-Yi divine arrows. Brother Ziwei, why aren't you attacking? Zhuowen's hands exploded into bloody mist and drooped down powerlessly. He couldn't help but shout at Ziwei Star Monarch, who was still in a daze. Ziwei Star Monarch was originally in a daze because of Feng Lilua's miserable state. Now that he heard Zhuowen's voice, he immediately came back to his senses. He also knew that this was a good opportunity that he couldn't miss. Ziwei Star Monarch stepped on the air with his right foot and shot out like a cannonball. He instantly arrived before Feng Lilua. At this moment, Feng Lilua was enduring unprecedented pain. It was the first time in his life that he was so seriously injured. He was in a daze. When the crepe myrtle star sovereign arrived in front of him and threw a punch, he barely reacted. Feng Lilua wanted to block it. Unfortunately, it was already too late. Ziwei Star Monarch's punch had already landed on his chest. The terrifying fist force, accompanied by the blazing and ferocious black flames, exploded with a loud bang. Puchi! Feng Lilua spat out a mouthful of blood and fell down. However, Purple Star Sovereign did not stop. He followed closely behind the falling Feng Lilua and threw out punch after punch. He used all his strength in each punch. The phantom of the undying bird floated in the void behind him, spreading terrifying energy. Rumble! After the last punch, Purple Star Sovereign stomped on Feng Lilua's neck with his right foot, pushing her to the ground. Instantly, countless storms accompanied by smoke and dust spread out in all directions, forming a ring-shaped airwave. It was a spectacular and shocking sight. The formation set up around the ruins of the main city shook violently under the influence of the shockwaves, creating dense and terrifying ripples of energy. The many subsidiary races surrounding the array naturally noticed the abnormality of the array, as well as the shocking battle energy produced by the array. However, due to the obstruction of the formation, their divine senses were unable to penetrate the formation. They could only vaguely see that the battle inside the formation was extremely intense. With the Phoenix Master's strength, you should be able to get rid of that traitor easily. Why hasn't the victor been decided yet? Among the many subsidiary races, the Fire Elephant race was considered relatively powerful. At this moment, the patriarch of the Fire Elephant race, Liang Su, who was standing in front of the Fire Elephant race, frowned and said, "Speaking of which, Zhuowen and the Fire Elephant race had formed quite a bit of enmity. In Phoenix Blood City, Yuan had killed the young patriarch of the Fire Elephant race and several experts of the Fire Elephant race. Because of this, Liang Su was abnormally furious. If not for Zhuowen's strange whereabouts, he would have taken revenge on Zhuowen long ago. This time, the Phoenix people were in chaos. After he knew that it was caused by Zhuowen, he immediately rushed over with the elites of the Fire Elephant race. He knew that with the foundation of the Fire Elephant race, he might not be a match for Zhuowen at all. However, this time, the Phoenix Master had personally taken action. Although he could not deal with Yuan, the Phoenix Master could. Originally, Liang Su was full of expectations that the Phoenix Master would be able to easily deal with Zhuowen and relieve the anger in his heart. However, the battle inside the formation had been going on for quite a long time, and it was still not over. This made Liang Su feel somewhat uneasy. Not only Liang Su, but the leaders of the other subsidiary races also felt uneasy. They also felt that the battle with Feng Lilua had been going on for too long. The longer the battle dragged on, the more uneasy they felt. Gradually, they became anxious among themselves. Outside the formation, while the subsidiary races were terrified and uneasy, in the ruins of the main city, Crepe Myrtle's star slowly climbed out of the huge deep pit. He was gasping for breath, and his aura was very weak. Zhuan ran over from afar, but his arms were still hanging down weakly. After using all his strength to shoot Hou Yi's divine arrows 4 times in a row, he had actually reached his limit. No matter how many healing pills he took, his arms would not be able to recover in a short time. He knew very well that it would take at least half a month for his arms to recover, and this was under the premise that he took healing pills every day. Otherwise, it would take a very long time to recover. Brother Crepe Myrtle, are you all right? Zhuan summoned his true body and gave Crepe Myrtle Star a healing pill. After taking the healing pill, Crepe Myrtle Star's complexion barely recovered. Has Feng Lilua been dealt with? Zhuan asked. Crepe Myrtle Star's complexion did not look too good. He waved his sleeve, and all the smoke and dust in the huge pit dispersed. There was no trace of Feng Lilua in the huge pit. There was only a shocking pool of blood left behind. That Feng Lilua should have been seriously injured, and then he used some kind of powerful escape talisman to leave this place, Crepe Myrtle Star said in a low voice. An expert like Feng Lilua is indeed very difficult to deal with. Zhuan sighed with some regret. However, Zhuan soon adjusted his attitude. Feng Lilua was definitely one of the people who stood at the peak of the untainted heavenly domain. Such an expert must have a lot of trump cards. If one wanted to get rid of such an expert completely, one had to be stronger than her, much stronger. It was already very impressive that he and Crepe Myrtle Star could seriously injure Feng Lilua and make him flee. While Feng Lilua was escaping, 2 screams came from not far away. The 2 foreign races who were entangled by the 2 evil spirits were finally no match for the evil spirits. The evil spirits seized the opportunity to tear their bodies apart and devour their souls. Suoingda, who was entangled by the 2 evil spirits, saw this scene and his heart skipped a beat. He complained incessantly. At the same time, Suoingda also saw Feng Lilua, who was seriously injured by Crepe Myrtle Star and Zhuan. At this moment, he had no fighting spirit in his heart. At this moment, his heart was filled with regret. If he had known that Zhuan was so powerful that he could defeat an expert like Feng Lilua with Crepe Myrtle Star, he would not have turned to the Phoenix people no matter what. Master Zhua, please spare my lowly life. I, Suoingda, am willing to do anything for you and become your loyal dog. Suoingda saw that the other 2 evil spirits had gathered towards him after dealing with the 2 foreign races. His eyes were filled with despair, and he could not help but shout. If you hadn't betrayed me, I would have been willing to accept you as my loyal dog. However, you are too greedy. After receiving benefits, not only are you ungrateful, you even turn to the Phoenix people to deal with me and threaten to kill me. You don't even have the right to be my loyal dog now. Chapter 3308. Intimidating. Suoingda screamed miserably as he was surrounded by 4 evil spirits. Then he was torn into countless pieces of blood. Suoingda's divine soul was also devoured by the 4 evil spirits. Brother Zhua, these 4 evil spirits that you raised are really strange. They actually like to devour flesh and divine souls. Moreover, they are ferocious and mischievous. How did you tame these 4 evil spirits? Seeing Suoingda being divided up like this, Purple Star Sovereign raised his eyebrows and asked curiously. These 4 evil spirits were raised in the Transcending Heaven Grade Yama Ghost diagram that I obtained. They were raised by the previous master. I also spent a lot of effort to tame these 4 evil spirits. Zhuan said with a smile. He definitely won't say that the Black King helped him tame them. After all, Purple Star Sovereign was tricked by the Black King. Now that he knew that the Black King helped him tame the evil spirits, he definitely felt unbalanced. Hearing this, Purple Star Sovereign nodded and did not ask any more questions. Instead, he looked outside the ruins and said in a deep voice, "Those outside should be the subsidiary races of the Phoenix people. What do you plan to do? Was it to destroy them? Or ignore them? Let's go. Let's go out first. If these subsidiary races know what's good for them, I won't bother with them. If not, I won't be polite," Zhuan said in a deep voice. After saying that, Zhuan lowered his hands and walked out of the ruins. The 4 evil spirits followed behind him like the most loyal servants. Purple Star Sovereign is not a person who is afraid of trouble. Although he suffered serious internal injuries in the battle with Feng Lilua and his strength was less than 10%. However, it was not difficult for him to deal with the subordinate races of the Phoenix clan. At this moment, the leaders of the subsidiary races outside the array also noticed that the fierce battle inside the array has completely dissipated and quieted down. The battle is over. Looks like the Phoenix Master has already dealt with Yun. Fire Elephant Race's leader Liang Shu let out a sigh of relief. He felt a trace of joy in his heart. Although he didn't do it himself, he had finally avenged his son. Zhuan, this is what you get for offending the Phoenix people. Your arrogance has come to an end. Liang Shu was secretly delighted. Thinking of this, Liang Shu hurriedly walked towards the exit of the Grand Array. He saw several blurry figures appear in that direction. He wanted to thank the Phoenix Master on behalf of his son, and he wanted to thank her in person. Soon after, Liang Shu arrived at the edge of the Great Array. The few figures within the Great Array also walked towards him. However, due to the barrier of the Great Formation, Liang Shu still couldn't see their faces clearly. He could only see that their figures and faces were very blurry. However, he firmly believed that the figure walking at the front was very similar to the Phoenix Master's figure. He knew that this was the Phoenix Master. At this moment, the people inside the formation had already reached the edge. Then, the huge formation began to tremble violently, and ripples began to appear. Liang Jie was very excited. He could feel the power of the array weakening. He knew that the array would be broken soon, and the Phoenix Master would appear soon. As for the leaders of the other races, they also revealed looks of joy. They had never doubted the Phoenix Master's victory. The Great Array completely collapsed. Liang Shu hurriedly knelt on the ground with one knee and said with an excited expression, "Fire Elephant Race Patriarch Liang Shu, congratulations to the Phoenix Master for defeating the enemy. The Phoenix Master might not know, but my son Mobo was once destroyed by Zhuan in Phoenix Blood City for no reason. Now that the Phoenix Master has dealt with that Zhuan, my son's death has been avenged. Liang Shu sincerely thanks you, and I can't thank you enough." Liang Shu knelt on the ground. He quickly realized that something was wrong because the Phoenix Master in front of him didn't say anything. Thinking of this, Liang Shu couldn't help but raise his head. He saw an unfamiliar face with a smile. "You're not the Phoenix Master. You are." Liang Shu's pupils shrank as he subconsciously asked. Just as Liang Shu finished speaking, he felt a sharp pain on the right side of his face. Immediately after, a foot ruthlessly kicked his cheek. Following that, Liang Shu involuntarily flew backwards. Like a parabola, he cut through the air and ruthlessly smashed into the ground. "I'm the Zhuan you wanted to get rid of. When you saw me, you seemed very shocked and disappointed." Zhuan slowly walked over. Liang Shu wanted to retreat, but one of the evil spirits behind Zhuan instantly rushed over. Its right hand grabbed Liang Shu and lifted him up. The faces of the many subsidiary race leaders around the ruins all stiffened. They looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief. Originally, they were expecting the Phoenix Master to return like a king, but at this moment, it was completely shattered. On the contrary, the person that the Phoenix Master must kill, Zhuan, actually came out. What the hell is going on? Could it be that the final winner is this Zhuan? But how is that possible? This result is too inconceivable. Liang Shu continuously struggled, but unfortunately, it was all in vain. The gap between him and the evil spirit was too big. The evil spirit continuously licked its lips. The saliva from the corner of its mouth flowed down like a flood. Liang Shu was so scared that he didn't dare to move anymore. If it wasn't for Zhuan restraining it, the evil spirit would have already eaten Liang Shu clean. "Zhuan, you can't kill me. I'm the patriarch of the Fire Elephant Race, a subsidiary race of the Phoenix people. If you kill me, you'll completely offend the Phoenix people." Liang Shu was so scared that he spoke incoherently. Zhuan sneered and said, "I even broke into the main city of the Phoenix people and killed the two protectors of the mysterious flame. Even the Phoenix Master couldn't do anything to me. You're just the patriarch of the Fire Elephant Race. What can I do if I kill you?" "You killed the Phoenix Master?" Liang Shu seemed to have thought of something and couldn't help but cry out in fear. When the other leaders heard Liang Shu's words, their bodies trembled. Most of them believed it. Now, in the main city, only Zhuowen and the others came out. Feng Lilua didn't come out. Anyone would have a bad feeling about this. Zhuowen only looked at Liang Shu coldly. He didn't explain or deny it. Now, he was surrounded by many subsidiary races of the Phoenix people. Both he and Star Sovereign Ziwei were seriously injured. If they wanted to deal with so many foreign races, they would have to pay a huge price. Now, he had to intimidate them so that they wouldn't dare to attack him and Star Sovereign Ziwei. Fortunately, the result he needed had indeed appeared. Because of Liang Shu's words, these foreign races began to let their imaginations run wild and didn't dare to do anything to them. You're the patriarch of the fire elephant race, right? You've been shouting to kill me since just now. You're hoping that I'll die in Feng Lilua's hands, right? Zhuowen looked at Liang Shu and asked indifferently. Liang Shu's heart tightened and he hurriedly said, Lord Zhuo, this is all a misunderstanding. I didn't mean that. Actually, The fire elephant race doesn't need to exist anymore. I will never tolerate those who threaten me. Of course, I'll naturally be friendly to those who are friendly to me. Your fire elephant race isn't friendly to me at all. Zhuowen deliberately said in a deep voice. Just as he finished speaking, the three evil spirits behind him turned into three afterimages and charged into the fire elephant race's group. Miserable screams could be heard incessantly. In the fire elephant race's group, only the patriarch Liang Shu was a master of heaven. The rest were all below the master of heaven. In front of a master of heaven middle stage evil spirit, they were as weak as puppets. In just a few breaths of time, the fire elephant race's group was slaughtered by the three evil spirits. The surrounding subsidiary race leaders all kept quiet out of fear. They looked at the three evil spirits who retreated behind Zhuowen with fear. They were more and more convinced that Zhuowen might have really defeated the Phoenix Master. Chapter 3309. Courting death. The leaders of the surrounding subordinate races all kept quiet out of fear as they stared at the three wraiths that had retreated behind Zhuowen in fear. They were more and more convinced that Zhuowen might have really defeated the Phoenix Master. They could not afford to offend such a powerful person. Now, they were no longer thinking about joining forces to destroy Zhuowen. Instead, they were thinking about how to break away from their relationship with the Phoenix people and avoid angering this ruthless person in front of them. Liang Shu's face was ashen. He had already thought that Zhuowen was a ruthless person who could even kill a powerful person like the Phoenix Master. He was finished for offending such a ruthless person. The fire elephant tribe behind him was also finished. Everyone here, do you want me, Zhuowen, to die like the fire elephant tribe's leader? If there is, feel free to step forward. Zhuowen looked around and shouted loudly. The surrounding foreign tribes kept quiet out of fear and involuntarily stepped back. The leaders of the subsidiary tribes hurriedly waved their hands, declaring that they did not think that way. They had only come to watch the show. They did not have any ulterior motives. Lord Zhuo, you are extraordinarily brave. The Phoenix people oppressed you every day. It is normal for you to resist them. That's right. We have no relationship with the Phoenix people. We are just closer to them. When we heard the commotion, we gathered here to join in the fun. Lord Zhuo, don't misunderstand. Liang Shu was so angry that his face turned pale. He wanted to scold these fence-sitters. Unfortunately, his throat was tightly gripped by the evil spirit and he could not make a sound. I am relieved to hear everyone's words. Zhuowen smiled faintly. With a thought, the evil spirit that was gripping Liang Shu's throat suddenly roared and tore Liang Shu apart. Seeing the bloody scene, the surrounding foreign tribes trembled. They were glad that they did not oppose Zhuowen and stood on the right side. Everyone, this matter is over. I will not stay any longer. See you later. Zhuowen greeted the surrounding leaders of the subsidiary clans with a fake smile. Then, he summoned his flying divine artifact and leaped onto it with Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign and the snake-faced man. They disappeared on the spot. Only when Zhuowen's flying artifact was far away did the surrounding foreign races heave a sigh of relief. Then, they all entered the main city of the Phoenix people to investigate. Soon, they discovered the corpses of He Xian and the other fire gods, as well as the corpses of Suoingda and the others who had just defected. Other than that, they also found many Phoenix people huddled in an empty space in the northeast corner of the ruins. These Phoenix clansmen were the ones who surrendered to Zhuowen and were kept alive. Other than that, they did not discover the corpse of the Phoenix master Feng Lilua. In a luxurious inn near the Xiantian auction house, Feng Bumming had just settled Feng Minya down when he received news from Feng Lilua. When he received the news, his expression changed greatly, and he immediately left the inn. Soon, he arrived at a canyon hundreds of thousands of kilometers north of the Xiantian auction house. As soon as he entered the canyon, he immediately saw a staggering figure with his back against the rock wall. This figure was covered in blood, and both of her arms were twisted and incomplete. Especially her left shoulder and left chest, which had become hollow. It was probably the result of a powerful energy bombardment. Feng Bumming walked closer and barely recognized that this battered figure was the Phoenix Master of the Phoenix people, Feng Lilua. Phoenix Master? Feng Bumming called out uncertainly. Feng Lilua forced her eyes open and said in a deep voice, "Bumming, take me to a secluded place. I need to heal." Feng Bumming resisted the urge to ask and nodded. Then he helped Feng Lilua onto the flying divine artifact and flew toward the inn. Bun and Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign did not go far. They set up a cave abode in a valley millions of kilometers away from the main city of the Phoenix people. The two of them entered the cave abode and planned to go into seclusion to heal. Half a month later, Bun walked out of the cave abode. His face was still pale and bloodless, but his hands were not as weak as they were half a month ago. In the past half a month, Yun crazily swallowed healing elixirs and finally recovered 70% of his injuries. Although his injuries were not completely healed and he might not be able to use his full strength, he was running out of time. There was only half a month left before the Sorcerer's Song Conference officially began. He had to go to the Sorcerer Tribe and participate in the Sorcerer's Song Conference. At this moment, Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign also walked out of the cave abode. His complexion was much better than Zhuowen's. After all, his injuries were much lighter than Zhuowen's. In addition, with the heaven-defying Phoenix bloodline, he had almost recovered in half a month. "Brother Crepe Myrtle, you should also come with me to participate in the Sorcerer Tribe's Sorcerer Song Conference. The power of the Sorcerer Ancestor is also very beneficial to your cultivation," Bun said to Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign. Brother Zhua, after hearing about the power of the Sorcerer Ancestor, I am indeed tempted. This time, I will participate in the Sorcerer Song Conference with you. When the time comes, we will win 2 places to enter the Sorcerer's magical pond. Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign laughed heartily. "With our strength, it will not be a problem for us to win 2 places," Zhuowen said with a faint smile. "Let's go now. The Sorcerer Tribe is quite a distance from here. Even if we travel at full speed, it will take about a week," Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign said. "However, before we go to the Sorcerer Song Conference, I think we still have time to go to the mysterious Sky Auction House. I still haven't received the reward for the items I sold there. It's time to ask for the reward." After saying that, Yun waved his sleeve and released the snake-faced man from the macro world. At first, the snake-faced man was a little confused. When he saw Zhuowen, he quickly bowed respectfully. "No need for formalities. You did well this time. The resources in the spiritual ring are for you. You should take care of yourself in the future." After Zhuowen threw a spiritual ring to the snake-faced man, he took out the space-time roulette. After the two of them stepped into the space-time roulette, they turned into a streamer and disappeared in midair. The snake-faced man stared blankly at Zhuowen, who had left. He knew that Zhuowen did not intend to keep him by his side, which made him feel a little disappointed. However, after he opened the spiritual ring, he was attracted by the vast amount of resources in it. He could not help but kneel in the direction where Zhuowen had left and say, "Thank you, Lord Jun." At the same time that Zhuowen left the valley, countless tribes in the untainted heavenly realm also set off for the Sorcerer Tribe, which was located in the center of the untainted heavenly realm. There were even some tribes that had already arrived at the sorcerer tribe's boundary, waiting for the sorcerer song conference to begin. At this moment, in the boundary of the Xiantian auction house, Feng Liluo walked out with Feng Bumming and 3 fire deities in a luxurious inn. Feng Menya silently followed behind Feng Liluo and Feng Bumming. Her face was buried deep in her chest, so no one could see her expression. The 3 of you, take Feng Menya back to the Phoenix people's main city. Gather the rest of the Phoenix people and rebuild the main city. Feng Liluo's face was still a little pale as she ordered the 3 fire deities beside her. The 3 fire deities had arrived at the Xiantian auction house in advance to auction the Taishian spiritual creation elixir, which allowed them to avoid disaster. The 3 fire deities naturally did not dare to disobey Feng Liluo. They took the distraught Feng Menya and left the boundary of the Xiantian auction house. Lord Phoenix Master, did Zhuan really destroy the main city of the Phoenix people? Feng Bumming still could not believe what Feng Liluo had told him before. He felt that it was too unbelievable. How could Zhuan have the ability to destroy the main city of the Phoenix people? This is not something you should be thinking about. You better prepare for the Sorcerer's Song Conference. This time, you must get a spot. Now, follow me to the Sorcerer Tribe. Chapter 3310. A big shop bullying a customer after Feng Liluo left the Xiantian auction house with Feng Bumming, Yuan and Crepe Myrtle Star arrived at the Xiantian auction house on a flying divine tool. When they landed in front of the Xiantian auction house, they realized that it was much quieter than before. He knew that the reason why it was so lively before was mainly because of the auction. Now that the auction was over, it was only natural for people to leave and disperse. So this is the Xiantian auction house. It looks quite grand. No wonder it dares to be called the #1 auction house in the primitive heaven domain. Crepe Myrtle Star looked at the magnificent auction house in front of him and clicked his tongue in wonder. Zhuan looked at the magnificent auction house in front of him with a trace of mockery in his eyes. Zhuan took out his communication jade talisman and sent a message to the president of the auction house, Xianhang. Then he stood at the entrance of the auction house and waited. Not long after, Xianhang walked out of the auction house with Gouts and with a smile. Zhuxiaoyu, you're so late. It's been half a month. I thought you weren't coming. Xianhang said enthusiastically. Hee, I was delayed by some troublesome matters. That's why I'm half a month late. Zhuan said with a faint smile. Zhuan sized up Xianhang. He realized that there was a trace of disdain and condescension in Xianhang's eyes. Zhuan was puzzled. Could it be that Xianhang didn't know that he had caused trouble for the Phoenix people half a month ago? He could clearly see that Xianhang looked down on him. This made Zhuan very puzzled. Logically speaking, if Xianhang knew what had happened to the Phoenix people, he wouldn't show such an expression. He would definitely treat him with caution. By the way, is this person beside you your friend? Xianhang pointed at Crepe Myrtle Star and asked doubtfully. Although Crepe Myrtle Star's aura had been completely restrained, there was still a strong sense of oppression when he stood there. Xianhang could feel that Crepe Myrtle Star was not someone to be trifled with, so he restrained his attitude. Yes, he is my friend. His name is Crepe Myrtle, Zhuan said calmly. Xianhang nodded and didn't care too much. Instead, he smiled and said, Zhuxiaoyu, follow me into the private room first. Zhuan didn't refuse and followed Xianhang and Gaotzen into the Xiantian auction house. The room that Xianhang arranged this time was much larger than last time. The decorations inside were also extremely high-end and luxurious. However, the moment Zhuan entered the room, he sneered inwardly. This was because he could sense at least 7 types of formations in this room, and they were basically all creation-level formations. Moreover, these creation grade grand formations were formed from a heaven-piercing grade grand formation as the core. This grand array was more than enough to trap a middle-stage heavenspan Lord Powerhouse. It seemed that this Xianhang had long been scheming. Also, Zhuan concluded that the news about the Phoenix people had not spread yet. Or rather, the Phoenix people had strictly controlled the news. Otherwise, it was impossible for the Xiantian auction house to not know about such a big thing that had happened to the Phoenix people. If Xianhang knew about what had happened to the Phoenix people, he wouldn't have thought of dealing with Zhuan. This was because if the Phoenix people's matter was exposed, the news that Zhuan was a heaven-piercing array master would also be exposed. If Xianhang knew about this, he wouldn't use the Grand Formation to deal with Zhuan. Although Zhuan could sense the Grand Formation in the room, he remained calm and collected. Crepe Myrtle Star, who was following beside him, didn't notice it at all. After all, he didn't understand array Dao. It was naturally not that easy to detect an unactivated Grand Formation in advance. Xianhang warmly led Zhuan and Crepe Myrtle Star to a private room and instructed Gao Zhen to investigate for the two of them. He then sat opposite Zhuan. President Xian, you should have guessed why I'm here, right? The two Taishen spiritual creation pills and the Phoenix People's Saintess that I put up for auction at your auction house last time should have been sold for quite a high price. Zhuan said calmly. However, Xianhang looked regretful and said, Shuo, speaking of the auction, I feel a little sorry for you. What do you mean? Zhuan asked. It's like this. Many people bid for the two Taishen spiritual creation pills, but because the witch tribe's high priestess personally came out, once she opened her mouth, no one dared to raise the price. In the end, it was only sold for 2 million heavenly law origin crystals. As for the Phoenix People's Saintess, she was directly taken by the Phoenix leader, Feng Lilua. We couldn't stop her. She didn't even give me a single heavenly law origin crystal. You also know how powerful the Phoenix people are. Our small auction house can't afford to offend them. I've calculated it for you. 2 million heavenly law origin crystals. After deducting the fixed handling fee of 3 million heavenly law origin crystals, you still owe our Xiantian auction house 1 million heavenly law origin crystals. However, Zhuo Xiaoyu is also our old customer. I'll give you a discount for this 1 million heavenly law origin crystals. You only need to give our Xiantian auction house 800,000 heavenly law origin crystals. Xianhang was all smiles as he spread out his hands toward Zhuan. Crepe Myrtle Star's gaze turned cold, but he didn't say anything. Instead, he looked at Zhuan. At this moment, Zhuan's expression wasn't too good either. He knew that Xianhang would definitely tamper with it, but he would still give him a little. However, he didn't expect that Xianhang wouldn't even give him a single heavenly law origin crystal and wanted him to pay for it. In his opinion, this kind of behavior was simply too vile. President Xian, did you calculate wrongly? I actually still owe your Xiantian auction house 800,000 heavenly law origin crystals? Zhuan looked coldly at Xianhang. Xianhang smiled faintly. I, Xianhang, have never miscalculated. I can show you the details of the accounts. With that, Xianhang took out a scroll and unfurled it, placing it in front of Zhuan. Zhuan didn't even look at it and said coldly, I can give you the 800,000 heavenly law origin crystals. I won't pursue the matter of the Phoenix People's Saintess. However, you must return the 2 great mystic creation spirit pills to me. Otherwise, I'll make public the fact that your profound sky auction house is bullying your customers. The smile on Xianhang's face vanished. He looked at Zhuan with a cold smile and said, Zhuo Xiaoyu, I entertained you with good intentions, but now you want to slander our Xiantian auction house. You really have the heart of a wolf and the lungs of a dog. Zhuan couldn't be bothered with Xianhang and said indifferently, Today, if your Xiantian auction house doesn't hand over the 2 great mystic creation spirit pills, I, Zhuan, will tear down your auction house. I, Zhuan, will do what I say and won't play dumb. Someone who dares to say that he'll tear down our Xiantian auction house, Zhuo Xiaoyu, you're the first. Although our Xiantian auction house is a small business, it's not that easy to bully. Today, if you dare to bully our auction house, then you can forget about leaving here today. Xianhang laughed coldly. A terrifying aura suddenly erupted, sweeping toward Zhuan like a storm. But very soon, an even more powerful aura tore apart the aura that Xianhang was brewing like a sharp claw and acted on Xianhang's body. Xianhang spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was unbelievably pale as he was sent flying. He looked at Crepe Myrtle Star, who was sitting beside Zhuan, in disbelief and said in a deep voice, You're a late-stage master of heaven? Although Xianhang's cultivation wasn't bad, he was only at the mid-stage master of heaven. The gap between him and Crepe Myrtle Star was not small. Chapter 33:11. Reap what you sow, retreat. Xianhang made a prompt decision. He immediately grabbed Gaotzen and retreated towards the door. At the same time, he took out an array flag and threw it out. In an instant, the entire room was filled with violent ripples of array Dao. The pressure on Zhuowen and Myrtle Star Monarch multiplied countless times in an instant, as if it was going to completely crush them. Zhuowen's gaze was calm. With a wave of his sleeve, dozens of beast bone array discs flew out, constantly flying in the air, forming complicated and strange trajectories. Zhuowen, on the other hand, formed a seal with both hands. The pressure of the array that had formed around them seemed to have eased up a lot at this moment. At this moment, Xianhang and Gaotzen had already retreated to the door of the room. They only needed to take a step to leave the room. However, Xianhang soon realized that something was wrong. This was because the moment he reached the door, he felt the obstruction of the array's energy, preventing him from continuing to retreat. Xianhang found it unbelievable. After he used the array flag to activate the array, the door's exit was set to not react to him and Gaoxin. But now, this kind of situation made Xianhang somewhat puzzled. Boom! In an instant, the array ripples erupted like a flood and blasted towards Xianhang. Xianhang was caught off guard and his waist was hit. With a muffled groan, he retreated into the array. As soon as Xianhang backed off, a terrifying gust of wind swept toward him. Xuanhong's expression changed drastically. He didn't need to think to know that the owner of the gust of wind was Myrtle Star Monarch, who was beside Jun. Xianhang was helpless. He couldn't dodge and could only meet force with force. He punched out, unleashing all the strength in his body. However, the moment his fist collided with Myrtle Star Monarch's, the bones in his right hand cracked. He spat out a mouthful of blood and heavily smashed into the edge of the array. At the same time, a terrifying killing intent swept out from the edge of the array. Waves of array vortexes blasted towards Xianhang like huge pythons. The array is actually attacking me? What's going on? Xianhang shouted loudly. He didn't even think before grabbing Gaotzen, who was by his side, and placing her in front of him to block the grand formation vortex that was flashing over. Gaotzen screamed miserably as he was torn into a bloody mist by the array whirlpool. And Xianhang used this gap to immediately retreat, avoiding the strangulation of the grand array vortex. You're a god array master? You secretly tampered with my grand array? Xianhang looked at the nearby Zhuowen with a calm gaze and could not help but exclaim. He knew very well that his grand array had been tampered with. Moreover, to be able to tamper with the grand array in this room, one had to be at least at the level of transcending heaven array Dao. Thinking of this, Xianhang's eyes were filled with regret. If he knew that Zhuowen was such a powerful god array master, he wouldn't have lured him into this formation and trapped himself in a cocoon. Furthermore, he had not expected that Zhuowen would have such a powerful companion by his side. Now, such an unforeseen event had made things very complicated and difficult to handle. Wait! Seeing that Crepe Star was about to continue attacking, Xianhang hurriedly said, "Zhuo Xiaoyu, it's my fault this time. Let's sit down and have a good talk. I'll give you a satisfactory answer regarding the compensation for the 2 Taishin Creation Spirit Pills." A mocking smile appeared on Zhuowen's face as he said indifferently, "President Xian, this trick of yours is useless against me. I, then, am a man of my word. Since I said that I would tear down your Xiantian auction house, I will naturally do as I say." Xianhang's forehead was covered in cold sweat as he threatened, "Zhuo Xiaoyu, it's all my fault this time. It has nothing to do with the Xiantian auction house. Moreover, you have to know that the Xiantian auction house is supported by many forces, including the sorcerer race and a few other of the top 10 races. If you tear down the Xiantian auction house, the forces behind the Xiantian auction house will not let you off. I think you'd better consider it carefully and not invite trouble to yourself." He, President Xian, I, Zhuowen, am a coward. No matter how many powerful forces are behind the Xiantian auction house, I've already said that I will tear down your Xiantian auction house. Brother Crepe Star, do it? Zhuowen said coldly. Crepe Star no longer hesitated. He stomped his right foot and no longer held back. A fierce attack poured down on Xianhang's body. Although Xianhang's strength was not bad, the gap between him and Crepe Star was too great. He barely managed to last more than 10 moves before he was completely destroyed by Crepe Star. After destroying Xianhang, Zhuowen walked out of the Xintian auction house with Crepe Myrtle Star. He stood at the entrance of the Xintian auction house and said loudly, "Unrelated personnel of the Xintian auction house, it's best that you leave now. Next, I, Zhuowen, am going to tear down the auction house. If you don't come out, don't blame me if you get involved later." Zhuowen's voice was not loud, but it was full of energy. The Xintian auction house and the surrounding foreign races heard it clearly. All of a sudden, all of the foreign races gathered around the auction house, looking at Zhuowen with strange gazes as they discussed among themselves. All the foreign races felt that Zhuowen was boasting. The Xintian auction house was the strongest force in this realm, and there were many powerful forces behind it. To put it bluntly, even the leaders of the top 10 races did not dare to say that they would tear down the Xintian auction house. The foreign races in the Xintian auction house also rushed out. Among them, those unrelated to the Xintian auction house looked at Zhuowen mockingly. "Who do you think you are? How dare you threaten to tear down my Xintian auction house? Are you courting death?" A foreign race with the head of a goat and the body of a human holding a giant axe walked out from the depths of the auction house. It's the vice president of the Xintian auction house, Yang Ji. He's an early-stage powerhouse who's second only to President Xianhang. Speaking of which, where's President Xianhang? Why is there only a vice president? Maybe he was delayed by other things. President Xianhang is not needed to deal with such an arrogant person. The surrounding foreign races discussed among themselves. They all felt that Zhuowen was done for. "Who are you?" Yang Ji looked coldly at Zhuowen and scolded. Zhuowen could not be bothered with Yang Ji and said, "Since you don't want to listen to my advice, I won't care about you anymore." With that, Zhuowen threw out an array flag and formed a seal with both hands. Instantly, the array flag turned into a stream of light and entered the Xintian auction house. Then, a terrifying energy ripple surged out from the Xintian auction house. Then, the luxurious and huge Xintian auction house exploded in front of everyone's eyes. Terrifying shockwaves shot into the sky like a pillar that reached the heavens. Most of the foreign races who were still in the Xintian auction house were engulfed by the shockwaves. They didn't even have time to scream before they were drowned by the shockwaves. Yang Ji, who was close to the Xintian auction house, was caught off guard and was hit by the shockwaves. He flew out in a sorry state and crashed heavily onto the ground. Zhuowen looked at this scene silently. The reason he had thrown out the array flag was to detonate the Xintian auction house's array chain. The power of the array chain's explosion was indeed terrifying. It completely engulfed the Xintian auction house. On the other hand, the foreign races surrounding the auction house were dumbfounded as they looked at the Xintian auction house that was engulfed by the shockwaves. They all thought that Zhuowen was just joking. But now, the Xintian auction house was really torn apart. To be more precise, it was directly destroyed. At this moment, all the foreign races looked at Zhuowen with fear and respect. Chapter 33:12. Which god city, you dare to destroy the mysterious sky auction house? You're courting death. After Yang Ji stabilized his sorry figure, he had already recovered from his shock. He glared at Zhuowen and could not help but shout angrily. However, Yang Ji didn't dare to step forward. He wasn't a fool. He knew why Xianhang hadn't shown up yet. As the vice president of the mysterious sky auction house, of course, he knew that the guest Xianhang had received was Zhuowen. He was the young man from the Devouring clan who had auctioned the great mystery creation spirit pellet. Yang Ji knew that with Xianhang's competence, he could have escaped from the explosion. However, Xianhang hadn't shown up yet. Yang Ji knew that Zhuowen had killed Xianhang. Because of this, Yang Ji didn't dare to step forward and fight with Zhuowen. He was just bluffing. "You don't agree?" Zhuowen turned to look at Yang Ji, his eyes cold. Yang Ji's heart tightened. He didn't say a word and immediately turned around to run away. The pagans gawked and dropped their jaws. They thought that Yang Ji would fight with this man. They didn't expect that he would run away. Standing next to Zhuan, Purple Star Sovereign patted the void with his right hand. Immediately, a gigantic palm formed from black flames appeared above the fleeing Yang Ji and slammed down. Yang Ji couldn't dodge. The giant hand hit him directly. He screamed as the black flames covered him and turned him into ashes. Sizzle! 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 All the pagans took in breaths of cold air. They retreated and stayed far away from Purple Star Sovereign. Yang Ji was the vice president of the mysterious sky auction house. He was at the early sky-piercing realm. However, he was killed that easily. How strong was this man? Brother Purple Star, let's go. Zhuan took out the space-time roulette. The two of them stepped on the roulette and left the place with a swoosh. After Zhuo Wen and Star Monarch North Myrtle had left, the foreign races around the profound heaven auction house erupted into a heated discussion. News of what had happened at the mysterious sky auction house spread quickly, and Zhuo Wen's name began to spread among the foreign races. Of course, he was going to become a thorn in the side of many big clans. After all, the mysterious sky auction house had more than one or two powerful forces behind it. Zhuo Wen's destruction of the mysterious sky auction house was the same as going against the forces behind it. When the mysterious sky auction house was destroyed, the forces behind it would quickly find out. When the time came, they would naturally take action accordingly. The shaman tribe was built in the center of the prehistoric heavenly realm and was also the economic center of the prehistoric heavenly realm. All the tribes in the primitive heaven realm liked to enter the sorcerer tribe's domain for trade. It was precisely because of this natural geographical advantage that the sorcerer tribe was the largest of all the alien tribes. Furthermore, in order to allow other races to come to the sorcerer tribe for better trade and communication, the sorcerer tribe had built an extremely vast city around the tribe. This huge city was many times larger than the main city of the Phoenix clan. It could accommodate hundreds of millions of living beings. The name of this huge city was Shaman God City. It was a famous city in the entire prehistoric heaven realm. During this period of time, Sorcerer God City was many times more lively than before. More and more non-humankind troops gathered from all directions and entered the Magus God City. Although the Sorcerer God City had a vast territory and a huge city, with so many foreign races moving in at once, the Sorcerer God City seemed a little crowded. Zhuowen and Purple Star Sovereign's destination this time was Sorcerer City. They received news that all pagans who wanted to participate in the Sorcerer Song Conference had to gather at Sorcerer City to register. Of course, Zhuo Wen and the North Pole Star Monarch couldn't reveal their true appearances after causing havoc in the Phoenix clan and destroying the profound sky auction house. Moreover, they had suppressed their cultivation to a very low level. Zhuo Wen's cultivation level was not high to begin with. In addition, his Pangu sacred body was not a normal cultivation method. Therefore, the aura of his cultivation level was always based on that of his original human body. Since his original human body digested the blue frost Ganoderma, his cultivation level had broken through and reached the late stage of the creator realm. His cultivation level was neither high nor low. Therefore, he did not need to suppress his cultivation level. Purple Star Sovereign's cultivation level was too high. It would be too ostentatious for him to participate in the Sorcerer Song Conference. However, Purple Star Sovereign's inheritance of the undying bird was indeed impressive. There was a secret method to suppress one's cultivation level and even completely hide one's aura. The secret method in the inheritance of the undying bird was not ordinary. It was said that it could completely hide one's aura. Even those at the peak of the ascending realm might not be able to see through it. With such a powerful secret technique, Zhuo Wen naturally thickened his skin and asked for a copy from Crepe Myrtle Star. However, Zhuo did not let Purple Star Sovereign suffer a loss. He gave Purple Star Sovereign a bottle of ascending realm elixirs that could help him consolidate his cultivation level. After changing their appearances, the two of them completely changed their appearances. Zhuo Wen's appearance was that of a young man with an obvious scar on his right cheek. He could also suppress the aura of the Devouring clan, so people could not tell which clan he was from. Purple Star Sovereign's appearance was that of a black-clothed young man. His eyes were full of vicissitudes of life. His face was covered with fine metal scales. His aura was the same as Zhuowen's. It was hard to tell which clan he was from. This sorcerer god city is really big. Whether it is in the Xianmi heavenly domain or the primitive heavenly domain, this sorcerer god city can be considered an unprecedented giant city. Zhuowen stood in front of the city gate and could not help but sigh. It's also my first time seeing such a big city. The sorcerer race's magnificent masterpiece is really extraordinary. Purple Star Sovereign exclaimed. Ha, 2 country bumpkins. It's your first time seeing Sorcerer God City, right? When Jun and Purple Star Sovereign were sighing with emotion, a disdainful snort came from behind them. Hearing that, the 2 of them could not help but turn around. They saw a flying divine weapon slowly landing behind them. On the deck of the flying divine weapon, a team of more than 10 people slowly walked down. The most conspicuous person in this team should be a kind-looking old man standing at the front of the team. The elder's aura was faintly discernible, but Zhuo Wen and Crepe Myrtle Star Lord felt a threatening pressure from the elder. Standing on both sides of the old man was a young girl and a cold-looking young man. The alien race in this team looked almost the same as the human race. The only difference was that their eyes were blue, which reminded Zhuowen of the eyes of wolves. The alien race in this team should be related to wolves. The one who had mocked them just now should be the young girl standing beside the old man. The young girl was pretty, but she was far from being devastatingly beautiful. Although the young girl looked young, Zhuowen knew that she had lived for at least 1,000 years. The young girl noticed that Zhuowen and Purple Star Sovereign were looking at her. She raised her head and said contemptuously, "What are you looking at with your despicable eyes? Don't blame me for gouging your eyes out if you keep looking." Zhuowen and Purple Star Sovereign narrowed their eyes. This young girl had not only mocked them, but she was also speaking rudely now. They were experts at the level of the Master of Heaven Ascension. How could they tolerate such humiliation? Although they could see that this team was not ordinary, they were not afraid. Chapter 33:13. Moonwolf Tribe, Qianping, don't be rude. The elder at the front of the group scolded the girl beside him. The young girl named Qianping pouted when she heard this. However, she obediently stopped talking nonsense to Zhuo Wen and the Crepe Myrtle Star Lord. "I'm sorry. Qianping's personality is rather rude and unreasonable. If she has offended you, please forgive her," the old man said apologetically. One would not slap a smiling person. Since the old man had said so much, Zhuo Wen and Star Sovereign Ziwei naturally did not intend to take it to heart. "It's okay. It's just a misunderstanding," Zhuowen said with a smile. "My name is Yi Taihe. I'm the clan leader of the Moon Wolf Tribe. These are the juniors of the Moon Wolf Tribe." The old man smiled and pointed at the group of people behind him. He continued, "Both of you must be here to participate in the Sorcerer Song Gathering, right? Which tribe are you from? You must have received the invitation of the Sorcerer Tribe's High Priest to go to the inner city of Sorcerer God City, right?" Zhuowen and the Crepe Myrtle Star Monarch revealed grave expressions when they heard the old man's introduction that they were from the Moon Wolf clan. The Moon Wolf tribe was also one of the top 10 tribes in the primitive heavenly realm. They were ranked above the Phoenix people. No wonder when the 2 of them first saw the old man, they faintly felt a threatening pressure. The old man was an expert on the same level as Feng Luo. He might even be stronger than Feng Luo. Thinking of this, the 2 of them revealed a serious expression. However, when they heard the second half of the elder's words, they looked confused. Star Sovereign asked instinctively, "Do we have to receive the invitation of the Sorcerer Tribe's High Priest to attend the Sorcerer Song Conference? If we don't receive the invitation, we can't attend the Sorcerer Song Conference?" When the Purple Star Sovereign said this, the smile on Yi Taihe's old face could not help but stiffen. His gaze turned strange. "Ha, this is hilarious. You're really 2 country bumpkins. You don't even know about the invitation of the Sorcerer Tribe's High Priest. How dare you say you're here to attend the Sorcerer Song Conference? Country bumpkins like you should leave Sorcerer God City as soon as possible. You won't have the chance to participate in the Sorcerer Song Gathering." Qianping laughed loudly. Her words were filled with mockery. The indifferent young man standing on the other side of Itaiha raised his chin slightly, his eyes also revealing a look of disdain. As for the rest of the team, they all sneered along with Qian Ping. Although they didn't say anything sarcastic, their sneers made people feel uncomfortable. Qian Ping, stop fooling around. Don't blame me for punishing you to face the wall. Itai, he said unhappily. This sentence was very effective. Qian Ping immediately did not dare to make a sound. Clearly, she was very afraid of facing the wall when Itaiha spoke of. After intimidating Qian Ping, Itaiha looked at Yuan and Crepe Myrtle Star Monarch with a much colder attitude. Since the two of you did not receive an invitation from the high priest of the shaman tribe, it seems like we are not on the same path. I'll take my leave now. After Itaiha finished speaking, he planned to lead his team and pass by Yuan. However, Yuan stopped Itaiha. My friend, what do you mean by this? Although I, Itaiha, treat people politely, I treat my enemies differently, Itaiha said with a gloomy expression. Yuan cupped his fists and said with a smile, Old Mr. E, we don't mean any harm. We just want to ask about the invitation. We heard from others that the Sorcerer Song Conference is held in the Eldritch territory and all alien tribes with a bone age of less than 10,000 years can participate. Why is it that what I heard is completely different from what you said? Do you need an invitation to participate in the Sorcerer Song Conference? The corners of Itaiha's mouth curled up slightly. However, his smile was full of mockery. Huh, you are indeed country bumpkins. It seems like you are from an unknown tribe. You didn't even receive an invitation. To tell you the truth, the high priest of the shaman tribe, Wu Wuxian, has sent out 10,000 invitation letters to the top 10 tribes and the famous tribes. As long as you have these invitation letters, you are qualified to enter the inner city of the Sorcerer God City. You can also participate in the official Sorcerer Song Conference. As for those who did not receive an invitation letter, they can only stay in the outer city. If they want to enter the inner city and be qualified to participate in the Sorcerer Song Conference, they can only compete with the other trash for a small number of places. Haha, when you enter the outer city, you can compete with those trash like you for a small number of places. Qian Ping laughed coldly. Qian Ping, let's go. Don't talk nonsense. Itaiha pulled Qian Ping and entered the Sorcerer God City without saying goodbye to Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtle Star. Zhuowen did not care about Itaiha's sudden change in attitude. He was thinking about Qian Ping's words. Brother Zhua, it seems like the Sorcerer God City is divided into the inner city and the outer city. We don't have the background of a big tribe, so we can only compete with those geniuses from the small tribes. Crepe Myrtle Star said. Let's go in and find out the conditions to enter the inner city. Anyway, there are still 10 days before the Sorcerer Song Conference officially begins. Before Zhuowen finished speaking, his body suddenly stiffened and he looked at the sky with his back facing the city gate. Crepe Myrtle Star noticed the abnormality and followed Zhuowen's gaze. He saw a huge flying divine artifact that was burning with flames. The flying divine artifact landed at the city gate and 4 figures walked down from it. Among the 4 figures, Crepe Myrtle Star was very familiar with 2 of them. The 2 figures turned out to be the Phoenix Masters of the Phoenix People, Feng Lilua and Feng Bumming. The other 2 figures were a man and a woman. Judging from their attire, they should also be from the Phoenix People. Feng Lilua is indeed not dead. Brother Zhua, are you all right? Crepe Myrtle Star quickly noticed that Zhuowen's body was trembling. He seemed to be extremely agitated and his eyes were filled with intense killing intent. He quickly reminded him. Zhuowen took a deep breath and withdrew the killing intent in his eyes. The killing intent in his eyes was not targeted at Feng Lilua and Feng Bumming. Although he wanted to kill them, it was not enough to make him lose his composure. It was mainly the man and woman beside Feng Lilua and Feng Bumming because they were the Grand Elder Mu Yu and the Third Elder and Yen of the Phoenix People. He had heard from the Phoenix People that the Grand Elder and the Third Elder had left the Phoenix People with Mu Chenshua. Now that the 2 of them had returned, but he did not see Mu Chenshua. This made Zhuowen have the urge to grab the Grand Elder and the Third Elder and question them. However, his rationality suppressed his impulse. Although he was anxious to know Mu Qinshue's whereabouts, he knew that he would not be able to take down the Grand Elder. However, he knew very well that if he rushed up now, not only would he not be able to take down the First Elder and the Third Elder, he would also attract the attention of the Sorcerer tribe. Moreover, he still needed to participate in the Sorcerer Song Conference to obtain the Sorcerer Venomous Worms from the 3 corpses in the Ancestral Sorcerer Magical Pond. As long as he obtained the 3 Ancestral Sorcerer Venomous Worms, Yun was confident that his Pangus sacred body would be upgraded to 8 stars. At that time, Zhuowen's strength would increase greatly. Even if he was in the Sorcerer God City, the Sorcerer Tribe's nest, he would not be afraid. As for the Phoenix people, he would be eliminated in the Sorcerer God City and interrogate the Grand Elder about Mu Qinshue's whereabouts. I'm fine. Brother Crepe Myrtle, let's enter the Sorcerer God City first. Zhuowen shook his head. Chapter 33:14. Cocoon Wu Sorcerer God City was indeed spacious and prosperous. It was many times more luxurious than the Phoenix people's main city. After Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtle Star entered Sorcerer God City, they found a random inn. This inn was not big and was located in a remote area. Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtle Star had deliberately chosen this inconspicuous inn. After all, the two of them had caused trouble for the Phoenix people and destroyed the mysterious Sky Auction House. Although the two of them had changed their appearances and even their auras, the two of them did not want to be too ostentatious. Naturally, they chose to stay in a remote area. After entering the inn, Yun realized that there were many foreign races at the tables on the first floor. What surprised him was that most of the foreign races at the tables had very low cultivation bases. There were even foreign races that had yet to reach Dao validation. Even the most powerful of them had just reached Dao validation not long ago. Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtle Star had concealed their auras beforehand. When the two of them entered the inn, they did not attract the attention of the foreign races. They thought that they were just ordinary foreign races. Are the two of you here to stay? A foreign being who was dressed as a waiter hurried over with a warm smile on his face. Do you have any guest rooms here? Yun asked. Yes. There are many more? Both of you should be staying in the inn, right? The waiter asked. Yes. Get the best room for the two of us. Yun said. All right. The waiter asked Yun and Crepe Myrtle Star to wait for a while before he went to check them in. The two of them casually sat at a table nearby and were immediately attracted by the sound of the table in the middle of the first floor. The table in the middle of the room was especially large and round. At this moment, the round table was filled with foreign races. These foreign races had even gathered in groups around the round table. It was so crowded that not even a drop of water could pass through. These foreign races were all listening with great interest to a foreign being at the center of the round table who was speaking with fervor and assurance. Originally, Yun did not care. However, when this foreign race person talked about the conditions to enter the inner city, he immediately perked up. He had originally planned to find someone to ask about the conditions to enter the inner city after settling down in the inn. Now that this person was talking about it, he was naturally interested. Cocoon Wu, don't keep us in suspense. You are the most well-informed here. You know how the selection process to enter the inner city is conducted. Why don't you tell everyone about it so that we can be mentally prepared? One of the foreign race members said to the foreign race member who was speaking confidently. This foreign race person who was surrounded in the middle was called Cocoon Wu. He was from an extremely small race that was not well known. Of course, this inn was located in the worst location in the Sorcerer God City. It was also the cheapest inn. Most of the people who stayed here were nobodies. As for the truly large and medium-sized clans, they naturally wouldn't stay in such low-class inns. Don't be anxious. Everyone should know that the sorcerer race has given 10,000 invitation letters to the real big clans in the Great Desolate Heaven Realm. The 10,000 geniuses from the big clans who received the invitation letters were directly qualified to enter the inner city. I think you guys should know about it too, right? Cocoon Wu said proudly. Nonsense, we naturally know about this. However, this has nothing to do with us small clans. Why are you talking about this? One of the foreign race people frowned to express his dissatisfaction. Hee, everyone, don't be anxious. Listen to me carefully. The sorcerer race directly gave those big clans 10,000 spots. Do you know how many spots he gave us small clans to compete for? Cocoon Wu said mysteriously. It's definitely far more than 10,000. After all, the number of small clans far exceeds the number of big clans by who knows how many times. If there are still only 10,000 spots, then it's too little. The competition will definitely be too intense. Someone echoed. Cocoon Wu sneered. 10,000? You guys are taking it for granted. Let me tell you the truth. There are only 1,000 spots for us to compete for. Yes, you didn't hear wrongly. The sorcerer race only took out 1,000 spots to send us small clans away. The table immediately fell silent, but it quickly became noisy again. The many foreign races gathered around the table were filled with righteous indignation. Their eyes were spitting fire and they were unable to restrain their anger. But very quickly, they fell silent powerlessly. They also knew that no matter how dissatisfied they were, it was useless. As the number one clan in the great desolate heaven realm, the sorcerer race was a colossus to them. It was authority. No matter how angry they were, it was useless. They still had to follow the rules of the sorcerer race. Although the sorcerer race did not do this properly, it's already very good that they gave us, small clans, a chance. We have nothing to complain about. Furthermore, I also received internal news that the selection method for the inner city quota should be carried out by directly breaking through the inner city's heaven gate. Cocoon Wu said, Inner city's heaven gate? Isn't that the gate to enter the inner city? Does that gate still need to be broken through? Or is it a competition to see who's faster? A foreign race person asked. I'm not too sure about the specifics. It's said that there will be obstacles. As for what it is, I feel that it will be announced when the selection begins. Cocoon Wu said helplessly. For the next period of time, Cocoon Wu continued to talk about the heavens and earth. The other foreign races also continued to listen to him. Zhuoan and the Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign's rooms were also prepared. However, they did not return to their rooms. Instead, they continued to sit at the table. 2 hours later, Cocoon Wu bid farewell to everyone and left the inn. Zhuoan and the Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign followed him out. The two of you have been following me since you left the inn. May I know what's the matter? When turning into an alley, Cocoon Wu turned around and stared indifferently at Zhuoan and the Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign in front of him. Zhuoan was not surprised. He and the Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign did not hide their tracks. If Cocoon Wu still did not notice them, it would be too fake. Zhuoan smiled and said, Fellow Taoist, this one is Long Wen. He is the Purple Star Sovereign. We followed you mainly because we wanted to ask you about the inner city's heaven gate. If fellow Taoist can tell us in detail, this Long will not treat you unfairly. Cocoon Wu looked at Zhuoan with interest. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile as he said with a slightly mocking tone, I, Cocoon Wu, have a very high status. I'm afraid I won't be interested in what you give me. If I'm not wrong, Brother Cocoon Wu should have just stepped into the second step of Tao confirming not long ago. This profound lily pill will be of great benefit to you in consolidating your heaven's mandate realm. I wonder if you'll be interested in this divine pill? Zhuoan took out a slightly greenish-yellow divine pill and shook it in front of Cocoon Wu. Cocoon Wu, who originally did not care, could not help but widen his eyes. At the same time, he said excitedly, I didn't expect fellow Taoist Long to have such a good thing. This thing will definitely be of interest to me. I urgently need it. If fellow Taoist Long gives this divine pill to me, I will tell you everything I know. Zhuoan smiled and handed the profound lily pill to Cocoon Wu. Cocoon Wu carefully accepted the profound lily pill. After checking that there was no problem with the divine pill, he said enthusiastically, I wonder what fellow Taoist Long wants to ask about the inner city's heaven gate? I want to ask if I need to register to participate in the selection? And where is the inner city's heaven gate? Zhuoan asked. Chapter 33:15. The Gate of Heaven in the Inner City. What? The registration deadline is over? Zhuoan and Crepe Myrtle Star Monarch were shocked. Brother Cocoon, did you get the wrong information? There are still 10 days before the Sorcerer Song gathering. How could the registration deadline be over so soon? Zhuowen asked doubtfully. This is the rule of the sorcerer tribe. We can't change it. If you don't believe me, I can take you to the gate of heaven in the inner city. The registration area is set there. There should be some disciples of the sorcerer tribe who haven't moved yet. You can go there and ask, Cocoon said calmly. Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtle Star Monarch looked at each other and nodded in agreement. Cocoon led Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtle Star Monarch through a few bustling streets and stopped in front of an extremely tall city wall. In the middle of the city wall, there was a rectangular gate that stood upright. Below the gate, there was a continuous bluestone staircase. There were thousands of steps on the bluestone staircase, and each step emitted a crystal-clear green color. This is the gate of heaven in the inner city. After entering the gate of heaven, you will arrive at the inner city, which is also the core city of the sorcerer tribe. Cocoon pointed at the huge rectangular gate and said, Zhuowen sized up the gate of heaven in the inner city and his gaze turned grave. Inside the heaven gate of the inner city, he discovered streams of mysterious array Dao energy. With his level of array Dao, he could tell that the array Dao energy was emitted by a heaven pass level array. Although the heaven connecting array on the heaven gate of the inner city had yet to be activated, Zhuowen knew that once it was activated, it would definitely be an extremely terrifying array. Zhuowen also felt that if he faced the heaven pass level array, he might not be able to break it in a short period of time. I didn't expect that there would be such a powerful array Dao master in the sorcerer tribe. Zhuowen muttered to himself. Zhuowen's voice was soft, but Cocoon heard it. He sneered and said, Brother Long, you don't know, right? The high priest of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Wuxian, is the array Dao master in the entire Eldritch Heaven realm. This is publicly acknowledged. Brother Long, don't you know? Of course I know the high priest of the sorcerer tribe. I was just sighing. Brother Cocoon. By the way, that should be the registration area. Zhuowen's gaze landed on a temporary hut in a remote corner of the inner city's heavenly gate. There were a few young disciples of the sorcerer tribe were packing in something. When Zhuowen and the other two arrived in front of the hut, the sorcerer tribe disciples did not even look at them. They continued with their own business. Fellow Taoist, can I still register for the quota to enter the inner city today? Zhuowen cupped his hands and asked a young woman. The appearance of the sorcerer tribe was similar to that of the human tribe. The only difference was that their skin was not white, but other colors. There were red, blue, green, and many other colors. This female sorcerer tribe member's skin was red. Even her eyes were red. She looked rather strange. The registration period is over. You can leave. The sorcerer sect woman said coldly. Zhuowen frowned and was slightly unwilling to give up. Fellow Taoist, can you make an exception? My friend and I just arrived at Shaman God City today, and we didn't know that the registration period had already passed. So, before Zhuowen could finish, he was interrupted by the sorcerer sect woman. Who do you think you are? Our registration time is fixed. Are you going to change it because of your time? You're so ostentatious. Crepe Myrtle Star narrowed his eyes. Just as he was about to teach the sorcerer sect woman a lesson, he was stopped by Zhuowen. In that case, let's go. Zhuowen said and left the registration area with Crepe Myrtle Star and Cocoon Wu. When they were far away, Zhuowen looked at Cocoon Wu and said, Brother Cocoon Wu, can you help us get a spot? If you can do it, I'll give you a Xianji pill as a reward. Cocoon Wu, who originally did not care, nearly jumped up in excitement the moment he heard about the Xianji pill. The Xianji pill was a divine pill that consolidated Cocoon Wu's recent advancement to Heavenly Fate Lord. While the Xianji pill's grade was even higher than the Xianji pill. It was a powerful divine pill that could help Cocoon Wu advance to Heavenly Fate Lord. Originally, after Cocoon Wu advanced to Heavenly Fate Lord and completely stabilized his realm, he planned on inquiring about the whereabouts of the Xianji pill. After all, this divine pill was the key to his future advancement to Heavenly Fate Lord. It was just that he did not expect that this long one in front of him could actually take out such a divine pill. This made Cocoon Wu view Zhuowen a few more times. In his heart, he already subconsciously thought of Zhuowen as a wealthy man. Brother Long, if you can really take out that Xianji pill, I can help the two of you get a spot. It's just that this is your one-sided statement. As for whether you have the Xianji pill on you or not, I'm not sure either, so. Cocoon Wu rubbed his hands and said. Yuan did not talk nonsense either. He took out a Xianji pill and placed it in front of Cocoon Wu. That thick medicinal strength immediately hit him head-on. Cocoon Wu's eyes became wide saucers. He dared to be 100% certain that this divine pill in front of him was indeed the Xianji pill that he yearned for even in his dreams. It was just that what made him somewhat disappointed was that Zhuan put away the Xianji pill very quickly. Believe my words now, right? Zhuan said coolly. Cocoon Wu hurriedly nodded his head and said, Believe, Brother Long. The spot that you want, I'll absolutely help you get it. It's just that you're also aware that it's very hard for me to get a spot. You want 2 spots this time. 1 Xianji pill is probably not enough, right? I don't have much on me either. How many do you want? Zhuan said coldly. I just want 3. Cocoon Wu said. 2 no more. Zhuan replied coldly. Hearing that, Cocoon Wu could only compromise and get 2 then. After reaching an agreement, Cocoon Wu let Zhuan and Crepe Myrtle Star Lord 2 people return to the inn first and wait for a few days. He would help the 2 of them settle the matter of the spots in these few days. Zhuan and Crepe Myrtle Star Lord naturally had no objections. After the 2 people returned to the inn, they basically went into closed seclusion to cultivate too. Time flowed by quietly. 3 days passed. On this day, someone knocked on Zhuan's door. Zhuan swept with his divine sense and immediately discovered Cocoon Wu outside the door. At the same time, there was even a black-clothed foreign race following beside Cocoon Wu. This foreign race was very tall and did not look young. The skin on his face was greenish-purple. The moment Zhuan swept a glance at this foreign race, he knew that this foreign race was actually a member of the shaman race. It was just that this shaman race's cultivation was very ordinary, just a little stronger than Cocoon Wu. He was just Lord Xianji. Zhuan opened the door and said with a grin, Brother Cocoon Wu, you're finally here. Quickly come in and have a seat. Chapter 33:16. As soon as the sorcerer came in, he sat on the main seat, which made Zhuan raise his eyebrows. After Cocoon Wu came in, he quickly explained to Zhuan, This is Lord Hao Dang. He was also the disciple of the sorcerer tribe in charge of the registration. This time, I've invited him here to open a back door for you. Zhuan nodded and cupped his hands to Hao Dang, but did not say anything. As soon as Hao Dang came in, he put on an arrogant face. This made Zhuan very unhappy, so he was too lazy to say anything polite. Hao Dang also saw Zhuan's slightly perfunctory attitude. He narrowed his eyes and immediately put on a sour face. You're Longwen, right? I heard that you need 2 spots to participate in the inner city's Heaven Gate? Hao Dang said coldly. Yes, as long as fellow Taoist Hao Dang can help me get 2 spots, I will definitely reward you generously. Zhuan said in a deep voice. I do have 2 spots, but how do you plan to reward me generously? I heard from Cocoon Wu that you seem to have a lot of divine pills on you? Hao Dang laughed. Zhuan narrowed his eyes and cupped his hands. Fellow Taoist Hao Dang, you must be joking. I don't have many divine pills on me. The divine pills I gave to Brother Cocoon Wu before are also the few I have. Although I don't have any divine pills on me, I have an eternal level divine medicine. As long as fellow Taoist Hao Dang can help me get 2 spots, I don't care about this eternal level divine medicine. Zhuan showed a pained expression and said with difficulty, Eternal level divine medicine? Let me see, what kind of divine medicine is it? Hao Dang said with a burning gaze. Fellow Taoist Hao Dang, can you show me the spots first? If I see the spots, I will naturally show you the eternal level divine medicine, and I will give it to you directly. Zhuan said. Hao Dang snorted coldly and said, I, Hao Dang, am also a disciple of the sorcerer tribe. What kind of divine medicine have I not seen? Why would I deceive you, a mere small clan? If you don't want the quota, then forget about this deal. Zhuan took a deep look at Hao Dang, then took out a divine herb from his macro world and said, Watch carefully, my friend. It was a small flower that emitted a faint blue light. This flower only had 4 petals, and each petal was as clear as crystal. In particular, the cool and refreshing feeling emanating from Little Flower's surface made everyone feel refreshed and comfortable. It's really the Xiang glazed flower, an eternal divine herb? Hao Dang was also stunned. His cultivation was only at the 2nd realm of the 2nd step of the Tao confirming realm, so he hadn't seen many eternal level divine medicines that were 1 level higher than his realm. However, he had seen this Xiang glazed flower before. Moreover, the Xiang colored glass flower didn't need to be refined into a divine pill. It could directly absorb the energy within it for cultivation. The effect of this divine herb was extremely beneficial to the cultivation of all cultivators in the 2nd step of Tao validation, including eternal overlords. It could be said that this divine medicine was of great help to Lord Profound Secrets like Hao Dang. Hao Dang involuntarily went to grab the Xiang glazed flower, but Zhuowen's eyes were sharp and his hands were quick. He put away the Xiang glazed flower before Hao Dang could. Hao Dang's face turned ugly as he looked at Zhuowen. He said sternly, "What do you mean by this, my friend Long? I just wanted to take a look at the Xiang glazed flower. Why are you so stingy that you won't even let me see it?" Zhuowen merely looked calmly at the exasperated Vast the Arch and said indifferently, "As long as fellow Taoist Vast the Arch gives that spot to me, this divine herb will immediately be yours. And after all, you're a disciple of the sorcerer tribe. Your status is much higher than mine, and I'm in Sorcerer God City. There's no way I would play any tricks in front of fellow Taoist Vast." Hao Dang looked very displeased, but he still took out 2 tokens from his spirit ring and handed them to Zhuowen. The surface of the token that Hao Dang took out was filled with complicated patterns. When these patterns were combined together, they formed a strange pattern. This pattern was like a strange eyeball that had been staring at him all this time. The moment Zhuowen saw the tokens, he knew that they were strange and couldn't be easily imitated. Cocoon Wu, who was standing to the side, also took out his token to prove that the quota token Hao Dang took out was definitely not fake. Zhuowen took the 2 tokens, took out the Xiang glazed flower again, and handed it to Hao Dang. Hao Dang took the Xiang glazed flower excitedly, and his eyes were filled with unconcealable excitement. After carefully looking at the Xiang glazed flower, he put it into his spirit ring. He wasn't in a hurry to leave. Instead, he looked at Zhuowen with a smile and continued, "Fellow Long, your Xiang glazed flower is not bad, but I don't think it's enough to exchange for 2 quotas, unless you hand over something of the same value." Zhuowen put away the 2 tokens, looked at Hao Dang indifferently and said, "Fellow Hao Dang, you said it yourself that this Xiang glazed flower can be exchanged for 2 quota tokens. Are you going back on your word now?" Hao Dang smiled and continued, "That's not it. I just think that the value of this Xiang glazed flower is not as good as the 2 tokens. If fellow Long thinks that I'm asking for too much, then let's forget about this deal. Give me back the 2 quota tokens." Zhuowen's face darkened. He threw the 2 quota tokens to Hao Dang and said coldly, "Since fellow Hao Dang isn't sincere about making a deal with me, then forget it. Give me back the Xiang glazed flower." Although Zhuowen was determined to get the 2 quotas, Zhuowen knew that Hao Dang was going to ask for too much. If he compromised, Hao Dang would definitely ask for more. Moreover, he was sure that Hao Dang wasn't the only one who had the quota tokens. The other disciples of the sorcerer tribe also had them. He didn't have to trade with Hao Dang. Hao Dang took the quota tokens in a daze. He didn't expect Zhuowen to cancel the deal so easily. This caught him off guard. However, Hao Dang quickly came back to his senses. He put away the 2 quota tokens and said indifferently, "If that's the case, then the deal is cancelled." With that, Hao Dang stood up and planned to leave the room. However, Zhuowen stopped Hao Dang. "Fellow Long, what are you trying to do? How dare you block my way?" Hao Dang said coldly, "Fellow Hao Dang, please return my Xiang glazed flower." Zhuowen said indifferently. Hao Dang's face darkened. "When did I take your Xiang glazed flower? You didn't take out anything in the deal just now." As he spoke, he looked at Cocoon Wu and said, "Cocoon Wu, did you see fellow Long take out that Xiang glazed flower?" Cocoon Wu quickly smiled and said, "No. Just now, Lord Hao Dang took out 2 quota tokens for fellow Long to take a look. There was no Zhang glazed flour. Hao Dang nodded solemnly. He looked coldly at Zhuan and warned, "Fellow Long, as a disciple of the sorcerer tribe, I have the right to imprison you in the dungeon to reflect on your actions." Chapter 33:17. The selection begins. Zhuowen's gaze turned cold. He knew that Hao Dang was going to renege on his promise. He was still standing in front of the door. Instead, he looked at Cocoon Wu and said calmly, "Fellow cultivator Cocoon Wu, I gave you 2 mystery pills out of goodwill so that you could help me with my business. But now, you actually colluded with this person to deceive me. Shouldn't you give me an explanation?" Hao Dang looked at Cocoon Wu when he heard about the mystery pills. Cocoon Wu had never mentioned the mystery pills to him. It seemed that it was time to teach this guy a lesson. How dare he deceive him? Cocoon Wu's eyes were filled with hatred. He knew that Zhuan had said that on purpose. Even if he left this place, he wouldn't be able to keep the mystery pills on him. He knew Hao Dang's character very well. This person was extremely greedy and would do anything just because he was a disciple of the sorcerer tribe. "Cocoon Wu, you're really something. If you don't treat me well when we get back, I'll make you suffer. And you, get out of my way." Hao Dang pointed at Cocoon Wu and said. He then pushed Zhuan, intending to push Zhuan away. However, Hao Dang didn't push him away. Instead, he was pushed back by a force. Before he could react, an even more powerful force came at him like a sharp sword and pierced his chest. Hao Dang didn't even have time to scream before he fell to the ground. His spirit was completely destroyed at this moment. Cocoon Wu was stunned. He watched as Zhuan slowly walked to Hao Dang's side and took off his spirit ring. He couldn't say a word. After Zhuan took off Hao Dang's spirit ring, he used his divine sense to check it. He heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the 2 entry tokens inside. He waved his sleeve and shot out a divine flame. After burning Hao Dang's body to ashes, Cocoon Wu quickly knelt in front of him. "Lord Longwen, these are your mystery pills and mystery pills." Cocoon Wu didn't mean to do it. "I was forced by Hao Dang. Now that Lord Longwen has destroyed Hao Dang, it's really satisfying." As Cocoon Wu spoke, he took out the profound mystery pill and profound lotus pill that Zhuan had given him before. He spread out his hands and presented them to Zhuan. Zhuan gave Cocoon Wu a deep look. This Cocoon Wu was truly a fence-sitter. He had switched sides rather quickly. Zhuan retrieved the profound secrets pill and the profound beauty pill. Cocoon Wu, who was kneeling on the ground, let out a sigh of relief. He thought venomously in his heart. If he left this place this time, he would immediately go to the shaman clan to inform them. He would definitely make Longwen die without a burial ground. "Cocoon Wu, after returning this time, you should be planning to inform the sorcerer tribe, right?" Zhuowen's indifferent voice sounded. Cocoon Wu's pupils contracted, and he hurriedly denied, "How is that possible? Lord Longwen, I would never do such a thing." "You have to believe me." Just as Cocoon Wu finished speaking, Zhuowen's finger had already pressed against his forehead. "I believed you once, but unfortunately, you lied to me. You have to know that I don't like to fall into the same pit a second time." Cocoon Wu only felt an unbearable pain between his brows. Then, an extremely powerful wave of energy struck his forehead, causing it to completely collapse into nothingness. He also lost consciousness in the end. Zhuan looked coldly at the fallen Cocoon Wu. He swiftly took off Cocoon Wu's spirit ring and burned him to ashes with his divine fire. The moment Zhuan stopped Hao Dang, he secretly set up a large shielding array in the room. In addition, Zhuowen's battle was very quiet, so it did not alarm the other foreign races in the inn. However, Purple Star Sovereign was an expert at the late stage of the sky-piercing realm after all. He immediately noticed it. When Zhuo Wengang destroyed Cocoon Wu, Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign knocked on the door. "Brother Zhuo, what happened?" Purple Star Sovereign asked after entering the room. Zhuowen told Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign everything that had happened. He took out a slot token and handed it to Crepe Myrtle Star. Hao Dang is a disciple of the sorcerer tribe after all. If he mysteriously disappeared, the sorcerer tribe might investigate. This inn is not suitable for us to stay in. Let's move out immediately, Purple Star Sovereign suggested. Zhuo nodded. He had the same idea. Hao Dang's cultivation was not low, and he could even get 2 quota tokens. He probably had a good status in the sorcerer tribe. The sorcerer tribe would definitely investigate if such an important disciple suddenly disappeared. The two of them packed up and left the inn on the same day. They chose an extremely high-end inn that was far away from this inn and stayed there. Although the price of this high-end inn was much higher, it was nothing to Zhuowen and the others. A few days after Zhuowen and Purple Star Sovereign moved out, the people of the sorcerer tribe really came to the remote inn to investigate. After the people of the sorcerer tribe could not find out the truth, they actually slaughtered all the foreign races in the inn. Of course, this was all done in secret and did not cause much of an impact. Zhuowen and Purple Star Sovereign naturally did not know that such a thing had happened. Time gradually passed, and soon, it was the day to enter the inner city's gate of heaven. On this day, the huge square in front of the gate of heaven in the inner city was packed with countless members of the outsiders. Zhuowen and the Crepe Myrtle Star Monarch also arrived at the square. In front of the square, there was an open space of nearly 1,000 square meters. It was strangely much more spacious, and no foreign races came forward to crowd it. Zhuowen noticed that there were 3 experts of the sorcerer tribe standing in the open space. What surprised Zhuowen was that these 3 experts of the sorcerer tribe were all experts in the early stage of the Master of Heaven ascension. The powerful aura emitted from their bodies caused many of the foreign races in the square to show fear and reverence. One of the red-skinned sorcerer tribesmen walked forward and said loudly, "I am Xiao Lei, an elder of the sorcerer tribe. These 2 are Elder Han Yu and Elder Gao Miao." The elder of the sorcerer tribe named Xiao Lei pointed at the 2 blue-skinned and green-skinned elders of the sorcerer tribe beside him and introduced them to everyone. The opening of the sorcerer tribe's ancestral sorcerer magical pond is a grand occasion. We welcome all friends of the large tribes to come and support us. However, before the Sorcerer Song Festival, everyone must first obtain the qualifications to enter the inner city. Today is the selection to enter the inner city, so the 3 of us will host it. The selection this time is very simple. That is, whoever enters the gate of heaven first will obtain the qualifications to enter the inner city. We plan to select 1,000 contestants, so the first 1,000 to reach the gate of heaven will successfully obtain the qualifications to enter the inner city. When Xiao Lei said this, many of the foreign races in the square who were participating in the selection did not agree. In particular, some of the foreign races who were good at movement techniques were secretly pleased, thinking that this selection was beneficial to them. Zhuowen's gaze was solemn as he looked at the steps in front of the gate of heaven. There were a total of thousands of steps, but there should be an extremely powerful gravitational array on the steps. Any of the foreign races who entered the steps would definitely be affected by the gravitational array. This was also thanks to Zhuowen's knowledge of arrays. Otherwise, he would not have been able to see the trick on the steps. Now, let's begin. The contestants who hold the entry tokens can enter the steps and fight for the top 1,000 spots. You can use any method to obtain the top 1,000 spots. After Xiao Lei finished speaking, he waved his sleeve and a heavy pressure appeared on the steps below the gate of heaven. It was obvious that he had activated the array on the steps. Chapter 33:18. Elder of the Sorcerer Tribe Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtle Star looked at each other, then blended into the crowd and rushed towards the heavenly gate. However, Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtle Star did not rush to the front. Instead, they were in the middle of the crowd. They did not want to stand out too much. All they needed to do was to get into the top 1,000. The moment the foreign races at the front reached the steps, they all fell off the steps. They had planned to use their movement techniques to rush to the heavenly gate. They did not even plan to climb the steps. However, the terrifying gravity on the stairs was like countless mountains crashing down on the outsiders, crushing them and causing them to fall onto the stairs. Some of the foreign races were even seriously injured. Many of their bones were broken and they could not even get up. After learning from the mistakes of the foreign races at the front, the foreign races at the back all slowed down and slowly landed on the steps. They all noticed that there was an extremely strong pressure on the steps. If they were like the foreign races at the front, they would definitely fall miserably. The moment Zhuan and Crepe Myrtle Star stepped onto the first step, their bodies sank. They felt the surrounding pressure acting on them like a tidal wave. They could not help but be rooted to the ground, like an old tree rooted to the ground. This pressure was indeed strong. However, it did not affect Zhuan and Crepe Myrtle Star much. They were too strong. If they wanted to, they could rush to the heavenly gate in a breath's time. However, they did not do so. Instead, they walked forward slowly like the other foreign races. Although the two of them didn't walk very fast, they maintained their rankings within the top 1,000. Boom! Suddenly, not far from Zhuan, a foreign race who was lagging behind suddenly exploded. He punched the back of the foreign race who was not far ahead of him. A scream rang out. The foreign race who was leading did not even have time to react and was severely injured. Then, he was kicked down the steps by the foreign race behind him. After this precedent was set, chaos broke out on the steps. All of the outsider races who were lagging behind began to attack the outsider races who were in the lead. In order to prevent themselves from being ambushed by the foreign races behind them, the foreign races in the lead all chose to strike first. In an instant, the Heavenly Gates selection in the inner city, which was originally a competition of speed, became a chaotic battle that was almost uncontrollable. Zhuan was originally moving forward in an orderly manner, but he suddenly felt a strong gust of wind sweeping towards him from the front and back. He immediately noticed that there was a foreign being attacking him from both the front and back, and they were all using killing moves. Zhuan snorted coldly and threw out a punch at the two of them. The terrifying fist wind tore through the air and shattered the space. The moment Zhuan's fists collided with the two aliens, they didn't even have the chance to make a sound before they were blasted into clouds of blood mist. Zhuan was simply too powerful, and the foreign races participating in this selection were all from small races. Their strength was generally not strong. Although Zhuan had only used 10% of his strength, it was enough to completely crush most of the foreign races participating in this selection. After Zhuan easily killed the two foreign races, many of the surrounding foreign races noticed and began to subconsciously distance themselves from Zhuan. The two foreign races who attacked Zhuan just now were not weak, but they were easily killed by this person. From this, it could be seen how powerful this person was. This saved Zhuan a lot of trouble. He knew very well that in this chaotic battle, if you were in a stalemate with your opponent, you would receive more attacks. If you crushed your opponent from the start, it would give the surrounding opponents the impression that you were not to be trifled with, and the subsequent attacks he would receive would naturally be much less. Zhuan's current situation was like this. Although there were still some foreign races attacking Zhuan, compared to the other foreign races in the lead, there were much fewer attacks. Not far away, Crepe Myrtle Star was in the same situation. Crepe Myrtle Star was even more ruthless. All the foreign races who attacked him were directly annihilated, including their corpses. This caused the number of foreign races around Crepe Myrtle Star to be even fewer than Zhuan. At the same time, Zhuan also noticed that at the very front of the stairs, there was a foreign race who was far in the lead. His strength was even more terrifying and his methods were even more ruthless. Anyone who was close to him in the top 10 was all blown to smithereens by him. Logically speaking, the foreign races who could enter the top 10 of the stairs were not weak, but they could not even withstand a single blow from the foreign race in first place. This foreign race who was far in the lead was wearing a black tight suit. Even her face was covered with a black veil, making it impossible to see her exact appearance. Moreover, Zhuan also noticed that this female foreign race's cultivation aura was very obscure. He actually could not detect how strong this woman's cultivation was. This made Zhuan very surprised. His divine will had been nurtured by the Panga banner and was far stronger than that of cultivators of the same level. However, he could not detect this woman's specific cultivation level. Zhuan did not try to get close to this female foreign race. In other words, most of the foreign races stayed far away from this female foreign race. The main reason was that this female foreign race was really too ruthless. Any foreign race who approached her, even if they did not attack her, were cleanly dealt with by her. The other foreign races were not hotheads. Why would they go over to court death? When the female foreign race reached the inner city's heaven gate first, All the foreign races heaved a sigh of relief and began to fight crazily to compete for the remaining spots. Xiao Lei and the other two elders of the sorcerer tribe stood at the bottom of the stairs, their gazes fixed on the female foreign race who had already reached the inner city's heaven gate. I can't sense the specific cultivation level of this person in first place. It's really strange. Xiao Lei said curiously. Me too, and I can't tell which race she belongs to. However, I guess she's at least in the second step of the Dao validation realm. Elder Gao Miao said in a low voice. You don't have to guess. Since this first place does not have an invitation, she must be from some unknown small race. It's just that by chance she obtained some powerful concealment technique. Why don't you think about it? How can a small race produce such a powerful genius? The geniuses selected this time are just for the sake of those small races. In fact, they are just cannon fodder. Elder Han Yu sneered. When Xiao Lei and Gao Miao heard this, they both nodded in agreement. They were the elders of the sorcerer tribe, the most powerful race in the primitive heavenly realm. They had a natural sense of superiority. Chapter 33:19. Jing Shan. Behind the heavenly gate in the inner city was a huge white jade floor. In the following period of time, there were many foreign tribes who arrived at the heavenly gate in the inner city and arrived at the white jade floor. Zhuoan and Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign were among them. However, both of them kept a low profile and only arrived at the heavenly gate after being ranked outside the top 100. Perhaps it was an illusion, but the moment Zhuoan arrived at the heavenly gate in the inner city, the female foreign tribe member who was standing in the corner seemed to have glanced at him. The first 1,000 foreign tribes arrived at the heavenly gate in the inner city. The three elders of the sorcerer tribe flew past the stairs and arrived at the heavenly gate in the inner city. With a wave of their sleeves, a powerful energy shield was set up in front of the heavenly gate. The foreign tribes who were still struggling on the stairs were immediately blocked by the energy shield. The first 1,000 places have been selected. You don't have to struggle anymore. You may leave. After Xiao Lei finished speaking, he waved his sleeves and a powerful force swept through the foreign tribes on the stairs like a gust of wind and brought them to the square at the bottom of the stairs. Many of the foreign beings' corpses on the stairs had been burned to ashes by his divine flames. Many of the foreign tribes who were sent back to the square were dejected and disappointed. They knew that they would not be able to participate in the upcoming Sorcerer's Song gathering. The selection is over. Congratulations to the 1,000 people who successfully made it to the heavenly gate in the inner city. You have earned the right to participate in the Sorcerer's Song gathering. Xiao Lei congratulated the foreign tribes on the white jade floor with a smile. The foreign tribes on the white jade floor were all excited. Only the female foreign tribe member looked calm and did not seem to be excited. Next, I will bring you to the inner city and arrange accommodation for you. The Sorcerer's Song gathering will officially begin in 4 days. When the time is up, I will send someone to inform you to head to the gathering location, Xiao Lei said. No one objected and they were willing to follow Xiao Lei's arrangements. After all, they had never been to the inner city and were not familiar with it. It was best for Xiao Lei to lead them. Although the inner city was not as big as the outer city, the heavenly energy here was more than 10 times that of the outer city. All of the foreign races that were brought in revealed looks of excitement. At the same time, there were very few outsiders in the inner city. Most of the people who came and went were disciples of the witch tribe. In the inner city, the most eye-catching building was the Sorcerer Tribe Hall, which was located in the center. In front of the Sorcerer Tribe's main hall, there were 12 gigantic statues that reached into the clouds. These 12 statues were none other than the 12 ancestral sorcerers who had existed since the beginning of the world. Soon, Xiao Lei led the group to the northwest corner of the inner city. This was a very remote area. In front of them were low-rise bungalows. Moreover, one also discovered that the heavenly energy here was the weakest in the inner city. Of course, even the worst ones were several times more expensive than the ones in the outer city. There are 1,000 rooms in this bungalow. You can distribute them among yourselves. 4 days later, I will send someone to inform you. During these 4 days, you can move about freely in the inner city, but you are not allowed to go to the shaman tribe's main hall in the center. If you do, you will be killed on the spot. Also, bring your entry token. This is the symbol of your status. If you do not bring your entry token and wander around the inner city, if you are caught, you will be treated as an outsider and killed on the spot. After Xiao Lei finished speaking, he left without looking back. Next, everyone went to choose their own rooms. Soon, the bungalows were all allocated. Zhuan discovered that after he had chosen his room, the mysterious female outsider chose the room next to his. As for the other outsiders who had chosen their rooms, when they saw the female outsider, they all hid far away and did not dare to go near her. After the mysterious female outsider chose her room and entered it, the other outsiders continued to choose their rooms. However, they all intentionally chose to stay far away from the female outsider's room. Zhuan did not mind. This female outsider was not to be trifled with, but Zhuan was not to be trifled with either. After entering the room, Zhuan did not even have time to sit down when there was a knock on the door. When he opened the door to his room, he was surprised to find that the mysterious woman standing outside the door was the woman from another race. However, he quickly regained his senses and said calmly, "What's the matter, fellow Taoist? I have some things to ask you. Is it convenient for me to come in and talk?" The female outsider said indifferently, "No problem. Come in." Zhuan moved aside and said. After closing the door, Zhuan took out a pot of immortal wine and 2 wine cups from the outside world. He filled the cups and sat down in front of the female outsider. "My name is Jingshan. I can sense Pangu's aura on you. Have you obtained Pangu's inheritance?" Jingshan asked directly. Bang! Zhuowen's right hand, which was originally placed on the table, shook violently. A powerful aura burst out and the table in front of him shattered into dust. Zhuan stared coldly at Jingshan in front of him, killing intent surging in his eyes. However, he quickly calmed down and said, "Pangu's inheritance? I don't know." At this moment, Zhuowen's heart was in turmoil. He was not calm at all. What was the origin of this female alien called Jingshan? How could he sense the inheritance of Pangu in his body? He had indeed obtained Pangu's inheritance and cultivated the Pangu's sacred body. However, he also had the Panga banner. Every time he used the Pangu's sacred body, the Panga banner would automatically cover up the aura of his Pangu's sacred body. This was also the main reason why many experts could not see through Zhuowen's physical inheritance when he used the Pangu's sacred body in battle. However, this Jingshan was too amazing. Zhuowen had not even used the Pangu's sacred body in front of this woman. However, she was able to sense Pangu's aura from his body. This was a little too ridiculous. Or was this woman testing him? Don't think that I'm testing you, because I did sense Pangu's aura on you. Answer my question. Have you obtained Pangu's inheritance? Jingshan's voice became very strong as she asked again. Zhuowen was a little annoyed. This woman demanded an answer from him. She really thought that he was a soft persimmon to be squeezed. "Why must I answer you?" Zhuowen said coldly. "Because if you answer me yes, it will only be good for you. At the same time, it will also be a great fortune for you." Jingshan said lightly. "I don't understand what you're talking about." Zhuowen denied. "Don't you want to know where Pangu fell? If you answer me, I'll give you clues about where Pangu fell." Jingshan said. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and took a deep look at Jingshan. He could not see through this woman more and more. At the same time, he began to believe her words. He knew very well that someone who could sense Pangu's aura on him was definitely not a simple person. Moreover, he was actually quite curious about the place where Pangu fell. He had always heard that Panga died because of the chaos, but he never knew where Panga died. When he obtained Pangu's inheritance, it was mainly because of the Panga banner. From the Panga banner, he obtained the cultivation method of the Pangu's sacred body. Chapter 33:20. Establishing a contract. Good. I can tell you that I didn't get Pangu's inheritance. I only got the cultivation method of Pangu's sacred body, but it's incomplete, Zhuowen said calmly. He didn't tell her about the Panga banner. He felt that the Panga banner was more important than the cultivation method of Pangu's sacred body. Sure enough, when Zhuowen mentioned Pangu's sacred body, Jingshan's eyes lit up. You came to the Sorcerer Song Conference to enter the Ancestral Sorcerer's magical pond and find the Ancestral Sorcerer's venomous worms to cultivate Pangu's sacred body, right? Jingshan said. Zhuan didn't deny it. He knew that since Jingshan knew about Pangu's inheritance, she should have some understanding of the cultivation of Pangu's sacred body. I've told you my secret. What about you? How did you sense Pangu's aura on me? Zhuan asked in a deep voice. It's my innate ability. You can rest assured. Your Pangu's aura is very weak. Even the strongest experts at the peak of the sky-reaching realm wouldn't be able to sense your Pangu's aura. Jingshan said. Zhuan frowned. He could tell that Jingshan wasn't telling the truth. He suspected that Jingshan had something related to Pangu. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to sense his Pangu's aura so easily. However, he didn't care. No matter how Jingshan sensed his Pangu's aura, he didn't care. What he really cared about was the clue to Pangu's place of death that Jingshan mentioned. Then, shouldn't Jingshan tell me more about Pangu's place of death? Zhuan asked in a deep voice. Jingshan nodded and said, Of course. Actually, Pangu's place of death is right under our feet. You mean that Pangu's place of death is deep underground where the sorcerer tribe lives? Zhuan asked in surprise. Jingshan shook her head and said, It's not underground, but in the depths of the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. There is a mysterious teleportation array that even the sorcerer tribe should not have noticed. I suspect that the teleportation array leads to the place where Pangu fell. You haven't even been to the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. How can you be so sure that there's a teleportation array in there? And this teleportation array leads to the place where Pangu fell? Zhuan asked doubtfully. Yes, I'm sure that's the case. It's because I obtained information about the place where Pangu fell from an ancient ruin. I won't lie to you about this. If you don't believe me, I can swear to the heavenly Tao. Jingshan said. Zhuan took a deep look at Jingshan and remained silent for a while before saying, Since you know about the place where Pangu fell, you can go in by yourself and enjoy the benefits of the place alone. Why did you come to me? Wouldn't you share the benefits with me? Jingshan smiled and said, Since the sorcerer tribe held the first Sorcerer Song Conference, I have already entered the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Over the countless years, I have entered the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond dozens of times. If I could enter the place where Pangu fell, I would have done so long ago. I have tried many times, but the teleportation array to the place where Pangu fell could not be activated. I knew that something must be missing. It was only when I sensed Pangu's aura on you that I saw hope. I felt that you might be the key to activating the teleportation array. Zhuan narrowed his eyes and took a deep look at Jingshan. He did not believe her words at all. However, he did not care. He was indeed very interested in the place where Pangu fell. In addition, he was a divine array master. If he could be taken to the teleportation array, Zhuan was confident that he could activate the teleportation array and enter the place where Pangu fell. So you came to me to cooperate, right? Zhuan said with a smile. Yes, if we cooperate, it will be a win-win situation. If we can really enter the place where Pangu fell, we will fight for the good things inside with our own abilities. What do you think? Jingshan suggested. That's great. However, to be on the safe side, let's make a contract first. Before we enter the place where Pangu fell, we must live in harmony and not attack each other. Zhuan looked at Jingshan and said. Jingshan nodded and did not have any objections. She cut her finger and blood gushed out. She drew in the air and formed a rather vivid contract pattern. Zhuan did the same. He pricked his finger and imprinted his blood essence on the contract pattern that was suspended in the air. Then I wish us a pleasant cooperation. Jingshan divided the contract pattern in the air into two. She kept one and handed the other to Zhuan. After the contract was made, Jingshan's expression was obviously more relaxed than before. At the same time, she also knew that Zhuan's alias was Long Wen. After the two of them talked for a while, Jingshan suddenly suggested, Brother Long, there are still 4 days before the Sorcerer Song Conference. On the day before the Sorcerer Song Conference, the geniuses of the 10 great tribes will hold a large-scale trade fair. There will be top geniuses of the 10 great tribes and many other geniuses of the great tribes. A trade fair like this will often have a lot of good stuff. I wonder if fellow Taoist Long is interested in this trade fair? Trade fair? I wonder if there will be any heavenly grade divine pills? Zhuan asked with some interest. He was now a heavenly grade alchemist. He was qualified to try refining the Six Desires Spirit Condensing Pill to save Moyan Wushang. The Six Desires Spirit Condensing Pill was a heavenly grade divine pill. The main ingredient alone was made up of 6 heavenly grade divine pills. Among the 6 types of divine herbs, he had already found the 1,000-year flowerless eyes, red sun red, Buddha yellow water bamboo, and crimson moon star wave milk. The remaining 2 heavenly grade divine pills were the blazing phoenix leaf and the 3 realms flower 1,000 feathers. As long as he could collect these 2 divine pills, he would have collected all the ingredients for the 6 Desires Spirit Condensing Pill. If these 2 divine pills could appear in this large-scale trade fair, it would be the best for Zhuan. That was why he was so eager to know if there would be any heavenly grade divine pills in this trade fair. Jingshan smiled faintly and said, "This trade fair is very big. Not only will the younger generation of the top 10 clans participate in the trade, but even some powerful clan leaders will sometimes take out their treasures to trade with other clan leaders. Naturally, there will be heaven-reaching divine medicines. Of course, heavenly grade divine pills are too precious. The chances of them appearing are not high, but there is still a chance of them appearing. However, heavenly grade divine pills are very rare. They are much rarer than heavenly grade divine pills. After all, heavenly grade alchemists are too rare. Okay. 3 days later, I will go to the trade fair with Brother Jingshan," Zhuan said with a nod. Chapter 33:21. Wu Xingyuan. 3 days later, Zhuan and Crepe Myrtle Star walked out of their room. Zhuan had already told Crepe Myrtle Star about the trade fair. Crepe Myrtle Star had also expressed his interest in the trade fair, so the two agreed to go together. "Who is this, Cultivator Long?" Zhuan and Crepe Myrtle Star had not been out for long when a crisp voice interrupted their conversation. Zhuan looked over and saw a tall and slender woman with a black veil covering her face walking towards them. It was Jingshan. "Cultivator Jingshan, this is my friend Zixing. He is also very interested in the trade fair and plans to go with us," Zhuan said. "In that case, let's go together." Jingshan did not say anything and only nodded. Thus, the 3 of them went together. Jingshan's power was still lingering. Wherever the 3 of them passed, the alien races in the bungalow area would scurry away like rats, not daring to get close to Jingshan. The trade fair was held in a huge square not far from the Sorcerer Tribe's main hall. This square was the closest to the Sorcerer Tribe's main hall and the 12 ancestral sorcerer statues. At the same time, it was also the largest square in the inner city. At this moment, the square was bustling with noise and excitement. Most of the people inside were experts from various races. Zhuan also noticed that the stronger the expert, the larger the area they occupied. At the same time, they would set up stalls and put the items they wanted to trade on the stalls to be sold. After entering the square, Jingshan separated from Zhuan and walked around the square alone to look for good items. As for Zhuan and Crepe Myrtle Star Monarch, they were walking around the plaza. Looking at the treasures on display, it was an eye-opener for them. After walking for a while, Zhuan found that most of the items that the alien races took out were materials or divine weapons. However, there were very few divine pills and formations. Even if there were, they were low-level divine pills and formations that Zhuan did not care for. Furthermore, even the most valuable materials that these foreign tribes had brought out were only at the God of Creation stage. This made Zhuan a little disappointed. His fortuitous encounters were far better than most cultivators, so the resources and materials in the Great World were basically of the highest quality. With his current wealth, if the resources and materials were not of the heavenly master level, he would not be interested in them. Let's go and take a look. Wu Xingyuan, the #1 prodigy of the Sorcerer Tribe, is holding a small trading place there. All fellow cultivators are welcome to come and support him. It's said that the geniuses of the top 10 clans all gave Wu Xingyuan face and went to that place to make a deal with him. Suddenly, a few outsiders who passed by him started talking excitedly, attracting Zhuowen's attention. Speaking of which, he was quite interested in the geniuses of the 10 major races. Among the geniuses of the top 10 races, Yuan had only seen the Phoenix people's Saintus and Feng Bumming. Among them, Feng Bumming, as a junior, only spent a few thousand years to become a master of heaven ascension. His talent was astonishing. He had also heard that the Phoenix people's ranking among the top 10 races was only average, and Feng Bumming was not the real top genius. As the most powerful race in the primitive heavenly realm, the most powerful genius of the sorcerer tribe must be much stronger than Feng Bumming. Zhuan also wanted to meet this person. Besides, the trade that Wu Xingyuan initiated would definitely be of a higher level than those in other places. He might also have a chance to trade for the divine medicine that he wanted. Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtle Star discussed for a while, then followed the crowd to the front of the square. There were already quite a number of outsiders gathered there. As he got closer, Zhuowen discovered that there was a rather large platform in the middle of the encirclement of the outsiders. A young man from the sorcerer tribe with light golden skin stood on the platform with a smile on his face. The young man from the sorcerer tribe smiled warmly, but the aura on his body was exceptionally terrifying. It was as cold and piercing as the night wind. When Jun arrived and saw the young man from the sorcerer tribe with light golden skin, his heart trembled. He actually felt an extremely strong sense of danger from the young man from the sorcerer tribe. As expected of the number 1 genius of the sorcerer tribe. Has Wu Xingyuan's cultivation become stronger again? I actually feel a tingling sensation from the aura that he is emitting. You guessed right. Wu Xingyuan's cultivation used to be at the early stage of the Master of Heaven Ascension. After coming out of seclusion this time, his cultivation has increased greatly. He might have reached the middle stage of the Master of Heaven Ascension. His sorcerer body is extremely terrifying, and his bloodline is extremely powerful. It is said that he has reached the peak of the 8-star sorcerer body. He fought with the Master of Heaven Ascension in the sorcerer tribe. Even the Master of Heaven Ascension in the sorcerer tribe could not do anything to Wu Xingyuan. No way, so heaven-defying. Even the Master of Heaven Ascension in the sorcerer tribe could not do anything to him? Otherwise, how could he become the most dazzling genius in the primitive heavenly realm? Many experts of the older generation have already regarded Wu Xingyuan as an extremely strong opponent. The surrounding discussions made Zhuowen gradually understand how terrifying Wu Xingyuan was. At the same time, he was also a little puzzled. When he first obtained the inheritance of the sorcerer ancestor, he knew that the sorcerer tribe only cultivated their physical bodies. However, from the discussions of these foreign races, Wu Xingyuan not only cultivated a powerful sorcerer body, but also cultivated the way of heaven with other foreign races. In fact, what Zhuowen did not know was that after the sorcerer tribe had been passed down for countless years, the bloodline of the sorcerer ancestor in their bodies had become thinner and thinner, and it had become more and more difficult to prove the way of heaven with their physical bodies. The benefits of cultivating the way of heaven were also obvious. Its cultivation speed was far faster than cultivating the sorcerer body, so most of the foreign races gave up on cultivating the sorcerer body, which was difficult to cultivate. Only the sorcerer tribe with a powerful bloodline continued to cultivate the sorcerer body and the way of heaven. And Wu Xingyuan was such an expert who cultivated both the way of heaven and the sorcerer body. This was the main reason why his combat strength far exceeded the sorcerer tribe who cultivated the way of heaven at the same level, and why he was valued by the higher-ups of the sorcerer tribe. This Wu Xingyuan is very powerful. I'm afraid that even if I were to use all my strength, I would at most be on par with him. Purple Star Sovereign suddenly whispered to Zhuowen. Hearing that, Zhuowen's eyes became extremely grave. He was very clear about the strength of Purple Star Sovereign. He had inherited the legacy of the undying bird and had a powerful bloodline. In addition, his cultivation had reached the later stage of the Master of Heaven. Even Purple Star Sovereign had said that he was not confident of defeating Wu Xingyuan, which showed how powerful and terrifying Wu Xingyuan was. I am Wu Xingyuan. Thank you all for coming. Wu Xingyuan stood on the high platform and cupped his fists at the foreign races around him. He continued, "The reason why I set up this high platform so ostentatiously is to attract as many friends as possible, so that I can have a better chance of exchanging for what I need. Brother Xingyuan, you've already advanced to the middle stage of the Heavenly Master Realm. What do we have that could catch your eye?" A sinister voice rang out. Everyone looked over and saw a skinny foreign race member who looked like a mummy standing quietly in front of the other foreign races. This skinny foreign race member was surrounded by a strange black gas. Many of the foreign races around him kept a distance from him and did not dare to get close to him. It's Shi Fu, the genius of the Corpse Ghost clan. It is said that Shi Fu and Wu Xingyuan are not on good terms. It seems that the rumors are true. Shi Fu's words are obviously mocking Wu Xingyuan. Zhuan looked at the skinny Shi Fu. He did not know much about the Corpse Ghost clan, but he knew that it was one of the top 10 clans. Chapter 33-22. Blazing Phoenix Exquisite Leaf. The aura of this corpse was much more arrogant than Wu Xingyuan's. Zhuan deliberately sensed that this corpse's cultivation was not as high as Wu Xingyuan's. It should only be at the peak of the early stage of the Master of Heaven Ascension. However, this corpse dared to provoke Wu Xingyuan. It should have its own strong points. Otherwise, it would not dare to go against Wu Xingyuan so openly. In addition to this corpse, Zhuan also saw an acquaintance in front of the foreign tribe. This acquaintance was Feng Bumming of the Phoenix people. At this moment, Feng Bumming did not say a word. He just stood there silently. What surprised Zhuan was that not only did Feng Bumming's cultivation not regress, but it also improved a little. He clearly remembered that he had destroyed Feng Bumming's physical body, and in the end, only his divine soul escaped. In order to raise Feng Bumming's cultivation to the peak, he must have paid a great price to reconstruct his physical body. It seemed that the Master of Heaven Ascension valued Feng Bumming very much. He was actually willing to pay such a price to restore Feng Bumming's physical body. I don't like the things on Brother Shi Fu, but it doesn't mean that I won't like the things on other cultivators. Wu Xingyuan said with a faint smile. As soon as these words came out, the surrounding foreign tribe members roared with laughter. The face of Shi Fu, who had spoken sarcastically, suddenly turned ugly. However, Shi Fu only snorted coldly and did not say another word. If Wu Xingyuan had not broken through in the past, he would have dared to challenge Wu Xingyuan. Now that Wu Xingyuan had broken through, his strength was much stronger than his. He did not want to expand the conflict with Wu Xingyuan. Seeing that Shi Fu had stopped talking, Wu Xingyuan did not continue to target Shi Fu. Instead, he took out a divine medicine that was filled with surging medicinal power from his spiritual ring. This was a leaf that was shaped like a phoenix's wing. This leaf was burning with a fiery red flame, and the leaf itself was exquisite, as if it was made of red crystal. When Zhuan saw this leaf, his eyes could not help but widen, and his breathing became rapid. This was because this leaf was one of the 6 Master of Heaven-level divine medicine that he was looking for, the blazing phoenix leaf. The surrounding foreign tribes also recognized this heaven-piercing elixir, and a commotion broke out below. Many burning gazes were fixed on the heaven-piercing divine herb. This is the dazzling phoenix leaf, a transcending heaven-grade divine herb. The reason why I took out the transcending heaven-class elixir is to exchange it for a divine pill or other divine elixir that can help me consolidate my transcending heaven-class mid-stage. If any of you have such divine pills or herbs, Xingyuan will be happy to trade with you. Of course, if it's a divine pill, that would be the best. On top of that, I will also give some additional compensation to the fellow Taoist who makes the trade. After Wu Xingyuan finished speaking, he took out a small table from his spirit ring and placed the blazing phoenix leaf on it. Fellow Taoist Xingyuan, although I don't have any divine pills or herbs that can strengthen the cultivation of a mid-stage Heaven Ascension Lord, I do have the Heaven Ascension Ancient True Pellet, an early-stage Heaven Ascension Realm Divine Pill. This pill can help a Heaven Ascension Lord's cultivation, and it has some effect on a mid-stage Heaven Ascension Lord. When Wu Xingyuan put down the blazing phoenix leaf, a beautiful woman in a white gauze dress walked up from below. She held a crystal-clear jade bottle in her hand. This woman attracted Zhuo Wen's attention because her appearance was exactly the same as a human's, but there were 9 white fox tails slowly swaying behind her spine. Zhuo Wen knew that this woman must be from the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, one of the top 10 clans. Speaking of which, this was not his first time coming into contact with the Nine-Tailed Fox clan. Mei Ying and Mei Su, the mother and daughter he had met in the Lutian region, were also from the Nine-Tailed Fox clan. Their auras were similar to this woman's. Of course, this woman's appearance was even more beautiful than Mei Su and Mei Ying's. With Zhuo Wen's insight, he could see that this woman's cultivation was similar to Mei Ying's before she had advanced. They were both at the early stage Heaven Ascension Lord. It's the genius of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, Wu Qiutong. The surrounding discussions also let Zhuo Wen know that this Nine-Tailed Fox clan member's real name was Wu Qiutong. Wu Qiutong came to the high platform and looked at Wu Xingyuan with her beautiful eyes. Zhuo Wen saw the look in Wu Qiutong's eyes and knew that she was in love with Wu Xingyuan. Wu Xingyuan stood still and shook his head. Taoist Wu, the Heaven Ascension ancient spiritual true elixir is useless to me. Wu Qiutong's delicate body trembled and she could only retreat dejectedly. After Wu Qiutong retreated, many other foreign tribes proposed to trade the blazing phoenix leaf with Wu Xingyuan. Unfortunately, Wu Xingyuan was not satisfied. Among these foreign tribes, Feng Buming, whom Zhuo Wen knew, also took out something similar. However, Wu Xingyuan did not take a fancy to it. The commotion below the high platform gradually calmed down. At this moment, no other foreign tribes went up to the high platform to talk about trading with Wu Xingyuan. This was because most of the foreign tribes below who were qualified to trade with Wu Xingyuan were rejected by him. Those who were not qualified stood far away and watched everything silently. Wu Xingyuan saw the silence below and shook his head, revealing a disappointed look. Just as he was about to take care of the blazing phoenix leaf and cancel the trade, a foreign tribe youth with a scar on his face walked up. Wu Xingyuan frowned slightly as he realized that the foreign tribe youth's aura was not strong. He actually came up to trade with Wu Xingyuan. He, Wu Xingyuan, was the number 1 genius of the sorcerer tribe and had a noble status. If his cultivation was not at the level of the Heaven Ascension Master, he would not have bothered to speak. The divine elixir inside is enough to trade for your blazing phoenix leaf. Just as Wu Xingyuan was about to chase him away, the foreign tribe youth quickly took out a jade bottle and threw it to Wu Xingyuan. Wu Xingyuan subconsciously caught the jade bottle. After hesitating for a moment, he opened the jade bottle. The moment the jade bottle was opened, a terrifying medicinal power swept out like a storm. Wu Xingyuan was so frightened that he quickly closed the bottle and formed a few seals to seal the jade bottle. However, Wu Xingyuan's eyes were filled with surprise. He looked at Zhuo Wen and said, "Which tribe are you from? You actually have such a divine elixir with you?" "I'm just a nobody, not worth mentioning. Brother Xingyuan, if you are satisfied, then we have a deal," Zhuo Wen said lightly. Wu Xingyuan's eyes flickered and he nodded. He simply handed the blazing phoenix leaf to Zhuo Wen and left the place in a hurry. Everyone saw Wu Xingyuan and the powerful medicinal power that overflowed from the jade bottle. They knew very well that the jade bottle that the foreign tribe youth took out might contain a Heaven Ascension divine elixir that was of a higher level than Wu Qiutong's Heaven Ascension ancient spiritual true pellet from the Nine-Tailed Fox tribe. After Zhuo Wen took the blazing phoenix leaf, he quickly kept it in the great world. He could not hide the excitement in his heart. He knew very well that after getting the blazing phoenix leaf, he only needed one more Heaven Ascension divine elixir to refine the 6 desires spirit condensing saint elixir. Chapter 33-23. Broken jade slip. After Zhuo Wen walked down the high platform, he was stopped by a figure. Zhuo Wen raised his head to look and discovered that the one who had stopped him was actually the skinny corpse. At this moment, Shifu's eyes were as ferocious as a ghost. He stared coldly at Zhuo Wen and said, "Fellow Taoist, I'm Shifu from the Corpse Ghost Clan. I want to trade the exquisite phoenix leaf with you. Take it out." Shifu obviously did not take Zhuo Wen seriously. In his opinion, the scarred young man in front of him had a weak aura, and he could tell at a glance that he was from a small clan. He was a genius from the powerful Corpse Ghost clan, so it would be his honor to trade with this young man. He did not doubt that this young man would refuse him. After all, he was Fu from the Corpse Ghost clan. As long as he proposed a trade, the geniuses from the other 10 major clans would have to give him face. Fellow Fu, I'm sorry. The exquisite phoenix leaf is very useful to me, so I don't plan to trade it, Zhuowen said indifferently. Fu was stunned, and his face immediately darkened. He said in a deep voice, I, Fu, am trading with you. It's a great honor for you, and you actually refuse? Are you courting death? What? This is the inner city of the Sorcerer clan, and this trade fair is originally a free trade. Brother Fu, do you want to force a trade? If you force a trade, I can call the Sorcerer clan's elders over to uphold justice. We'll see who's on the side of reason then, Zhuowen said in an unfriendly tone. Fu was from the Corpse Ghost clan and was a genius from the 10 major clans. He might be a deterrent to other foreign clans. However, Zhuowen was not afraid at all. After all, he had caused trouble for the Phoenix people and even fought with the Phoenix people's patriarch, the Phoenix Master. How could he be afraid of a mere junior genius from the Corpse Ghost clan? Fu's face suddenly darkened. He looked coldly at Zhuowen and said, I'll remember you. When the Sorcerer Song Fair begins, you'd better not meet me. Otherwise, you'll have a taste of what it's like to live a life worse than death. After saying that, Fu left the square. Fu knew very well that even if he was a genius from the Corpse Ghost clan, if he took the lead in this square, the Sorcerer clan would not give him face and would immediately punish him. Therefore, he could not do anything if Zhuowen did not want to trade. Many foreign clans from the surrounding clans, and they shook their heads. They all knew that this young man from a small clan had offended Pu, so there was no suspense about his future outcome. He would definitely be very miserable. Wu Qiutong of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan took a few more glances at Zhuowen and chuckled softly. What an interesting guy. He's clearly from a small clan, but he's so unyielding. And when when? Feng Bumming, on the other hand, looked at Zhuowen with some confusion. He did not know why, but when this scarred youth ascended the high platform to trade with Wu Xingyuan, he felt that this youth's back gave him a very familiar feeling. Maybe it's an illusion. Feng Bumming muttered to himself. Zhuowen walked down from the high platform and left the area of the high platform with Crepe Myrtle's Star Sovereign. They planned to walk around the other areas of the square. The square was very large. Maybe they could find some good things. However, after the two of them strolled around, they both revealed disappointed expressions. Most of the items for trade in the square were not good enough for them. Suddenly, Zhuowen inadvertently saw a damaged jade slip on an inconspicuous stall. The owner of the stall was a young man from a small clan. He squatted in front of the stall with his head hanging down. It was as if he did not dare to look up at the foreign clans passing by. Many of the foreign clans passing by snorted and laughed at the young man's stall. They did not even look at him and left. Zhuowen was speechless when he noticed the stall of this youth from a small tribe. That was because there was only a broken jade slip on the young man's stall. There was nothing else. Moreover, the jade slip was too ordinary and looked so old. It was no wonder that the other foreign clans passing by snorted and did not even look at it. The reason Zhuowen noticed this jade slip was because when his divine sense accidentally scanned this jade slip, he discovered that in addition to the very simple restriction on the outside, there was also an extremely complicated restriction on the inside. In other words, there were many restrictions on the jade slip. Generally speaking, if there were many restrictions on the jade slip, the only possibility was that the contents of the jade slip were very important. Otherwise, it was impossible to set up so many restrictions. It was also thanks to Zhuowen's terrifying array skills. Otherwise, he would not care too much about the broken jade slip like the other foreign clans. Zhuowen looked around and saw that most of the foreign clans were still not paying attention to the young man's stall. He pretended not to care and slowly walked to the stall. Crepe Myrtle's Star looked at Zhuowen with some confusion. He did not know why Zhuowen was going to that cheap stall. Was he going to buy that useless jade slip? Perhaps sensing that someone was standing in front of the stall, The young man slowly raised his head and looked blankly at the young man with the scar on his face. Zhuan squatted down and picked up the jade slip. He casually played with it and said, "Fellow Taoist, your jade slip is so broken. There shouldn't be anything good in it. Why are you selling this jade slip?" As Zhuan spoke, he used his spiritual will to check the jade slip. He was pleasantly surprised to find that the second restriction on the jade slip was very complicated. Even his spiritual will could not break through it. Obviously, this restriction was definitely not ordinary. The young man sighed softly and said, "Fellow Taoist, this jade slip was passed down by my clan's ancestor. However, my clan has declined. For countless years, no one has been able to break the restriction on the jade slip. We even invited a Formation Tao master of the creation realm, but he could not break it. The things in this jade slip are definitely not ordinary. Once it is broken, it will probably be a great fortune. If not for my embarrassment, I would not have taken out such a treasure to sell. If you like it, I can give you a cheaper price. It's only 50 million heavenly Tao origin crystals." When Zhuan heard the price, he was shocked. This guy was asking for too much. The jade slip's restriction was so strong that even he might not be able to break it. Yet, it was being sold for 50 million heavenly Tao origin crystals. This was the price of an ordinary ascending heaven treasure. It was no wonder that the foreign tribes that came and went were not interested in this jade slip at all. It turned out that this stall owner was asking for too much. The young man also saw Zhuowen's hesitation and hurriedly said, "Fellow Taoist, if you really like this jade slip, I can give you a cheaper price. After all, we hit it off at first sight. How about this, 10 million heavenly Tao origin crystals?" However, Zhuan shook his head and said, 3 million heavenly Tao origin crystals. I can't go any higher. All right, deal. As soon as Zhuan said the price, the young man immediately responded with a joyful smile on his face. Zhuowen's face darkened. He felt that he had been tricked by this young man. The price he had quoted earlier was simply nonsense. It was to give the buyer leeway to quote a higher price. This guy was really cunning. However, Zhuan did not mind. He felt that this jade slip was not simple. No matter how high the price, he would not let it go. After all, what he lacked the least was heavenly Tao origin crystals. After all, he had looted the entire treasury of the Phoenix clan. He had an insane amount of heavenly Tao origin crystals. Chapter 33-24. Divine Soul Sword Intent. Brother Zhua, why did you spend 300 heavenly law origin crystals to buy such a useless jade slip? On the way back, Crepe Myrtle Star expressed that he did not understand and expressed his doubts. Brother Crepe Myrtle, this jade slip has a very unusual restriction. I feel that a jade slip that can set up such a restriction must have extraordinary contents, Zhuowen said. Hearing this, Crepe Myrtle Star still expressed his confusion, but he did not say anything. After Zhuowen and Crepe Myrtle Star left the square, they went straight back to the bungalow area. However, before returning, Zhuowen sent a message to Jingshan, indicating that he had returned. After returning to his room, Zhuowen set up a series of restrictions around the room. After making sure that the surroundings were safe, he took out the jade slip again. He easily tore apart the restriction on the surface of the jade slip. This layer of restriction was the most trashy. Even someone who did not understand formations could easily break it. After breaking this simple restriction, the deeper layer of restriction was much more profound and powerful. Zhuowen spent a full 2 hours breaking the second layer of restriction. What surprised Zhuowen was that after breaking the second layer of restriction, there was still a third layer of restriction. The third layer of restriction was obscure and profound. Zhuowen spent a full half a day to break the third layer of restriction. After breaking the restriction, Zhuowen let out a sigh of relief. There were no more restrictions in the jade slip. Zhuowen's divine sense easily entered the jade slip, and the contents of the jade slip were also seen by Zhuowen. After reading the contents of the jade slip, Zhuowen was ecstatic. This was because the contents of the jade slip turned out to be a secret method to cultivate the divine soul and use the divine soul as a medium to derive the divine soul sword intent. Zhuowen knew very well how precious a secret method to cultivate the divine soul and attack with the divine soul was. Even the majority of sovereign transcendence experts might not possess such a secret technique. After all, such a secret technique was simply too rare. Zhuowen's spirit could be said to be strong enough under the nurturing of the Panga banner, but his use of it was still very shallow. Moreover, his divine soul would only erupt with great power when there was an expert trying to take over his body. But now it was different. If he could cultivate this soul sword intent, then he could use his soul as a weapon and directly attack the enemy's soul. Zhuowen was very confident. With his current powerful spirit, if he learned this secret technique, he would be able to instantly kill an early-stage transcendent master. After all, his spirit was much stronger than an ordinary early-stage transcendent master. However, Zhuowen was a little hesitant after reading the cultivation method of the soul sword essence. This was because the cultivation process of this secret technique was very cruel. According to the introduction of this secret technique, in order to cultivate the soul sword essence, one would need to directly cut off a part of the divine soul, then condense this divine soul into the sword essence and store it in the divine soul. If the divine soul was compared to a watermelon, then the soul sword essence was formed by cutting off a part of the watermelon and then condensing it. The divine soul was the most important part of a cultivator. If the divine soul was destroyed, it would mean the death of the cultivator. Cutting off a part of the divine soul, even if it was just a small part, would cause fatal damage to the divine soul. If one was not careful, it was very likely that one would become an idiot directly. Zhuowen was a little speechless. What was the founder of the soul sword essence secret technique thinking? Either the founder was a lunatic, or the founder's divine soul was so strong that he could withstand the pain of his divine soul being cut off. Zhuowen began to hesitate and was a little unwilling. Although he had never cultivated this soul sword intent, he knew very well that if he succeeded in cultivating this soul sword intent, it would definitely be one of his killing moves. After all, the attack of the divine soul was invisible and formless. Once it was launched, it would definitely catch people off guard. Let's give it a try. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. He still decided to cultivate it first. If it was really not suitable, he would decisively give up this secret technique. There was still one day left before the Sorcerer's Song competition. In this day, Zhuowen could try to condense a soul sword essence, doing what he thought was Zhuowen's character. He put aside all his worries and began to study the soul sword essence secret technique in the jade slip. He spent half a day to thoroughly study the cultivation steps of the soul sword intent secret technique, and then began to cultivate. He first began to separate a very small part of the divine soul. The separation process was very painful. Zhuowen's forehead was covered in cold sweat and he almost cried out in pain. When the small part of his soul was completely separated, Zhuowen let out a light sigh. He held his forehead and endured the intense discomfort of his soul being separated. He began to follow the steps in the secret technique and continuously condensed the small part of his soul that had been separated. The process of condensing was like kneading mud. The small part of the divine soul was constantly changing shape. As time passed, the small part of the divine soul began to show the embryonic form of a sword. This sword shape was really too rough. Even the sword embryo that had just been polished was more exquisite than this sword shape. Zhuowen was not discouraged. He knew that when the soul sword essence was condensed to its most perfect state, it would be as exquisite and sharp as a peerless treasure sword, emitting the blazing light that a treasure sword should have. However, he had just started to cultivate the soul sword essence. It was already very good that he could condense a rough sword shape. After condensing this rough sword shape, Zhuowen placed it in his divine soul and slowly opened his eyes. At this moment, Zhuowen's face was very pale. His headache was like a tide, rushing to his head wave after wave, making him feel like he was about to faint. The price to pay for cultivating this soul sword essence is really high. I feel like I've experienced a life and death situation. Zhuowen gasped for breath, muttering to himself with lingering fear. Stripping the divine soul was too painful for him. This was under the condition that his divine soul was much stronger than ordinary cultivators. If his divine soul wasn't strong enough, he wouldn't have been able to hold on and would have fainted directly. Zhuan silently checked the soul sword essence that was floating in his divine soul. This soul sword essence was very rough. It couldn't even be considered a sword embryo. Naturally, its power was very limited. However, Zhuan knew that as long as this soul sword essence was continuously condensed, it could be condensed into a peerless treasure sword. At that time, it would be easy to kill an early-stage Tongtian master. Even a middle-stage Tongtian master might not be able to withstand it. Moreover, Zhuan also knew that after condensing this soul sword essence, he might have to rest for a period of time before he could separate the second soul sword essence. If he continuously separated his divine soul, even if his divine soul was strong enough, he would be finished. He didn't dare to joke with his life. Zhuan opened the window and looked at the sky. He found that it was already night. Tomorrow is the day of the Sorcerer's Song Festival. I won't cultivate the soul sword essence tonight. I just need to polish the soul sword essence. Zhuan muttered to himself. He closed the window again and sat cross-legged on the futon. He began to concentrate on condensing the first soul sword essence that he had separated. As he continued to condense the soul sword essence, Zhuan was pleasantly surprised to find that his damaged divine soul was actually slowly recovering. His eyes revealed a look of understanding. He finally understood the painstaking efforts of the creator of the soul sword essence mystic technique. Chapter 33:25. Disturbance. As the first rays of the morning sun appeared, someone knocked on the door. Zhuan slowly opened his eyes, revealing a glimmer of light in his eyes. After spending the entire night condensing the soul sword essence, the sword essence in his soul had finally transformed from a simple sword shape into a sword embryo. Zhuan believed that as long as he was given time to continue tempering, this sword embryo formed from soul sword intent would eventually become a peerless treasure sword. Zhuan stood up and opened the door. To his surprise, the person who knocked on his door was not Crepe Myrtle Star, but Jingshan. Fellow Taoist Long, you're really cautious. You've actually set up so many restrictive formations outside. Even I almost suffered a loss. Jingshan gave Zhuan a deep look. After Zhuan removed the restrictions in the room, he said calmly, I don't like to be disturbed when I'm cultivating, so I'm used to setting up formations and restrictions every time I go into seclusion. Jingshan did not ask further. Instead, she said, Elder Xiao Lei of the Sorcerer Tribe has sent someone over. He wants us to gather at the entrance. Let's go over now. Also, it's best that we split up for the Sorcerer's Song Conference. Zhuan nodded. Even if Jingshan did not say so, he did not plan to move together with her. Brother Jingshan, you go ahead and gather first. I'll wait for my friend. Zhuan said. Jingshan did not say much. She simply turned around and left. After Jingshan left, Crepe Myrtle Star also walked out of his room. The two of them looked at each other and walked together. The entrance of the bungalow area was a large open space. At that moment, many members of the foreign tribes had gathered. These members of the foreign tribes were the geniuses from the small tribes that had been selected by the Heaven Gate in the inner city. At that moment, in front of these members of the foreign tribes, a red-skinned young sorcerer tribe member stood arrogantly like a proud peacock, looking down at the geniuses from the small tribes. You bunch of ants from small clans, can't you move a little faster? I really don't know why the great sorcerer tribe gave you trash tribes 1,000 spots. It's a waste of spots. You're just cannon fodder. If you participate in the Sorcerer Song Conference, you'll probably be wiped out in the first stage. This young sorcerer was clearly impatient. Looking at those foreign races who were late, he could not help but fly into a rage. His tone was extremely impolite. The young sorcerer's words immediately caused many of the foreign races to be enraged. However, they could only grit their teeth and swallow their anger. After all, the young sorcerer in front of them was a disciple of the sorcerer tribe. Now that they were in his territory, they could not afford to offend him. Zhuan and Crepe Myrtle Star Sovereign were the last to arrive. When the young sorcerer saw Zhuan and Crepe Myrtle Star walking over leisurely, the impatience in his eyes grew even stronger. You two came so late. You don't have to attend the Sorcerer Song gathering. Get lost. The young man from the Sorcerer tribe said coldly as he pointed at Tuan and Lord of Purple Star. As soon as he said that, all the foreign races in the group looked at Zhuo and Star Sovereign Ziwei at the same time. Their eyes were filled with pity. The young sorcerer's rudeness and arrogance had been fully displayed just now. They also knew that the young sorcerer tribe was a man of his words. In other words, these two guys who came late would probably lose their places to attend the Sorcerer Song gathering. When Zhuan heard that, his face immediately darkened. He looked at the young sorcerer tribe and said coldly, Elder Xiao Lei is the one who presides over the Sorcerer Song gathering. Only Elder Xiao Lei can cancel the quota. Do you think that you have more power than Elder Xiao Lei and can completely ignore Elder Xiao Lei's rules? The young sorcerer tribe was stunned. He did not expect this foreign race to be so daring as to directly contradict him. This made him flustered and exasperated. I am only Elder Xiao Lei's disciple. However, Elder Xiao Lei has already given me full authority to be in charge of your matters. Your quota is naturally in my hands. If I say that you are not qualified, then you are not qualified. Get out of the inner city now. Or do you want me to hire someone to throw you out? The young sorcerer tribe said coldly. Zhuan completely ignored the young sorcerer tribe member. In his opinion, the young sorcerer tribe member did not have enough power to cancel his quota. Seeing that Zhuan was ignoring him, the young sorcerer tribe member was burning with rage. You despicable ant from a small race, how dare you ignore me? Today, I will show you how miserable it is to ignore me. The young sorcerer tribe member stretched out his right hand and grabbed at Zhuan. Terrifying energy exploded. The young sorcerer tribe member completely ignored the large group in front of him. Most of the foreign races hurriedly dodged. Those who could not dodge in time were affected by the energy hand and spat out mouthfuls of blood. Their faces were extremely pale. The young sorcerer tribe member's strength was not bad. He was actually Master Xuanji, who was in the second step of Dao validation. In addition, he had the bloodline of the sorcerer tribe, so his strength was much stronger than most of the foreign races present. Even if there were a small number of foreign races that were not weaker than the young shaman tribe member, they did not dare to go against the young shaman tribe member. After all, this was his territory. How could they dare to provoke this shaman tribe member for Zhuowen? Jingshan frowned slightly. She did not expect such a thing to happen. She knew very well that after Zhuowen's provocation, it was a big problem whether this guy could participate in the Sorcerer Song gathering. This made Jingshan blame Zhuowen for being too impulsive. Of course, she did not stand up for Zhuowen. After all, she and Zhuowen were only partners who benefited from each other. If she stood up for him in such a matter, she would be crazy. Zhuowen's gaze was gloomy. This young sorcerer tribe member was too full of himself. He attacked him without saying anything. Moreover, he did not show any mercy. He was going to kill him. Zhuowen snorted coldly. His right hand formed into a claw and struck out. The huge energy hand instantly dissipated. At the same time, a powerful force swept over like lightning and hit the young sorcerer tribe member's chest heavily. The young sorcerer tribe member spat out mouthfuls of blood. His face was pale as he flew backward and crashed heavily onto the ground. The young sorcerer tribe member had just uttered the word when he felt something sweet in his throat. He spat out a mouthful of blood on the ground. It was a ghastly sight. Many of the foreign tribe members present were inexplicably shocked. They looked at Zhuowen in shock. When Zhuowen had broken through the heaven gate in the inner city, his performance had been rather normal. Hence, he did not attract much attention. When the young sorcerer tribe member attacked back then, the sorcerer tribe members present subconsciously thought that Zhuowen was done for. However, they did not expect Zhuowen to explode and defeat the disciple of Master Xuanji's sorcerer tribe in one move. He was considered one of the best among them. He was comparable to Jingshan. I've already shown mercy. If you don't know how to appreciate my kindness, I'll kill you on the spot. Also, I've done something to your spiritual soul. If you dare to harm me again, I don't mind destroying your spiritual soul. The young sorcerer tribe member had wanted to get up and scold Zhuowen. However, when he heard Zhuowen's voice in his head, he swallowed his words. You dare to threaten me? I'm a disciple of the sorcerer tribe. How dare you? The young sorcerer tribe member said in a low voice. You can try to see if my courage is big or not. Zhuowen said calmly. He was not afraid of offending this disciple of the sorcerer tribe. He believed that as long as he participated in the Sorcerer Song Conference, this disciple of the sorcerer tribe would not be able to control him. Chapter 33:26. Guarded ground. The young sorcerer tribe member saw that Yun was not to be outdone and fell silent. However, the anger in his heart erupted like a volcano. However, he didn't say anything. He was mainly afraid that Zhuowen might have done something to his divine soul, just as he had told him. This was because he did feel a piercing pain in his spiritual soul. However, the pain was not obvious. In addition to what Zhuowen had said, he was really afraid of the consequences of his spiritual soul being destroyed like Zhuowen had said. What do you want to do to get rid of the technique in my spiritual soul? The young sorcerer tribe member stared at Zhuowen and asked secretly. Bring us to the Sorcerer Song Festival. If you do well, I will naturally get rid of the technique in your spiritual soul. Zhuowen replied calmly. The young sorcerer tribe member stood up and glared at Zhuowen. He then said loudly, Everyone gather. I will bring you to the sorcerer tribe main hall. The Sorcerer Song Festival is about to begin. Many of the foreign tribe members at the entrance looked at the young sorcerer tribe member in shock. Everyone thought that the young sorcerer tribe member would call for powerful sorcerer tribe members to punish Zhuowen. However, the young sorcerer tribe member acted as if nothing had happened and asked everyone to go to the sorcerer tribe main hall. However, they did not pay much attention to it. Instead, they followed behind the young sorcerer tribe member excitedly. How could they not be excited when they were about to go to the Sorcerer's Song Festival? However, Jingshan looked at Zhuowen meaningfully. She had caught the sound waves of the voice transmission between Zhuowen and the young sorcerer tribe member. She knew that Zhuowen must have said something to make the young sorcerer tribe member afraid of Zhuowen and did not dare to go overboard. Zhuowen calmly returned to the group. However, many of the foreign tribe members around him kept their distance from Zhuowen. These foreign tribe members knew that Zhuowen had offended the sorcerer tribe member who was leading the group and would not end well. They did not dare to get too close to Zhuowen. Otherwise, they would be hated by the young sorcerer tribe member. That would not be worth it. Zhuowen and Myrtle Star did not mind the alienation of the surrounding non-humankind beings. They slowly followed behind the troop. Fellow cultivator Long, what did you say to the disciple of the sorcerer tribe? He actually didn't cause any trouble for you? Jingshan's spiritual will appeared in Zhuowen's mind. Maybe he thinks I'm not someone to be trifled with. That's why he didn't bother me. Zhuowen said ambiguously. To him, this Jingshan was only a cooperative relationship based on benefits. She was not a friend that he could trust. There were some things that he would not foolishly say out loud. Jingshan frowned slightly. She knew that Zhuowen was not telling the truth, but she did not care too much about it. As long as Zhuowen could participate in the Sorcerer Song Conference, she would be fine. After all, she still needed to rely on Zhuowen to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond and break open the mysterious teleportation formation there. Fellow cultivator Jingshan, I heard that the Sorcerer Song Conference has a limited number of people to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. May I know how many people there are? Zhuowen asked. Speaking of which, he had always known that the Sorcerer Song Conference was a selection to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. However, he never knew how many people would be selected to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. You don't know. Jingshan found it unbelievable that Longwen did not know this common knowledge that even the non-humankind beings knew. I've been in seclusion all year round, so I'm relatively uninformed. Fellow cultivator Jingshan, please enlighten me. Zhuowen explained. Jingshan nodded and said, in every Sorcerer Song Conference, 12 people will be selected to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. Moreover, these 12 people are basically taken up by the 10 great clans, especially the sorcerer tribe. Out of the 12 people, they usually take up 3 or 4 people. Sometimes, They even squeeze out the other geniuses from the 10 great clans. Zhuan was stunned. The sorcerer tribe was indeed powerful. Before Feng Bumming broke through, he did not have the confidence to get a place in the Sorcerer Song Conference. However, now the sorcerer tribe could take up 3 or 4 places. It had to be said that the sorcerer tribe was indeed the most powerful among the countless clans in the primitive heavenly realm. Fellow cultivator Jingshan, I don't doubt that you can enter the top 12, but how can you be sure that I can get a place? Zhuan asked in surprise. Since you've obtained a part of Panga's inheritance, it means that you're definitely not an ordinary person. If you can't even get a place, I feel that you don't deserve to obtain Panga's inheritance. Why don't you just give me Panga's inheritance? I don't want to waste it on you. Jingshan said sarcastically. Zhuan did not speak. He was thinking about Jingshan's last sentence. This woman was so confident that he could get a place because she was confident in his Panga's inheritance. Moreover, Jingshan was so familiar with Panga's inheritance. This made Zhuan think of a possibility. This woman might have also obtained a part of Panga's inheritance or something related to Pangu. Otherwise, she would not be so familiar with Panga's inheritance. At this thought, Zhuan looked at Jingshan with a grave and serious gaze. If this woman had really obtained a part of Panga's inheritance, it would not be a good thing for Zhuan. Soon, the young sorcerer tribe member led the crowd to the vicinity of the sorcerer tribe's main hall. In front of the sorcerer tribe's main hall, there was a huge open space paved with white jade. On this open space, there were many white jade pillars that were almost as tall as the clouds. On the surface of each pillar, there were strange and lifelike carvings of strange beasts. They looked as if they would pounce out of the pillars and attack you at any time. Around the open space and the sorcerer tribe's main hall, there were 12 even larger and more majestic statues of the sorcerer tribe. These 12 statues of the sorcerer tribe had a majestic aura. They were like indomitable gods that supported the sky, making people feel a sense of reverence. When the young sorcerer tribe member led Zhuan and the 1,000 geniuses from the smaller tribes into the open space, there were already many geniuses from the larger tribes gathered in front of the open space. These geniuses from the larger tribes also noticed the 1,000 geniuses from the smaller tribes brought by the young sorcerer tribe member. They all looked arrogant. After a casual glance, they chatted and laughed among themselves. They did not care about the 1,000 geniuses from the smaller tribes at all. Obviously, in their eyes, the 1,000 geniuses from the smaller tribes were just there to go through the motions. The ones who were really here to compete for the 12 spots in the sorcerer's magical pond were the geniuses from the larger tribes. This is the guarded ground. Wait here for a moment. The tribe leaders of the top 10 tribes and the geniuses they brought are not here yet. Once they are here, our high priest will come out and announce the official start of the Sorcerer Song Festival, the young sorcerer tribe member said calmly. With that, the young sorcerer tribe member looked coldly at Zhuan and secretly sent a voice transmission. I've already sent you here. You can undo the technique in my spiritual soul now. Once the Sorcerer Song Festival officially starts, I'll undo it for you. Why are you in such a hurry? Zhuan replied with a cold smile. The young sorcerer tribe member flew into a rage. However, he still controlled his emotions and sent a voice transmission coldly. Remember what you said. Zhuan ignored the young sorcerer tribe member. In fact, he had only left a spiritual seal in the young sorcerer tribe member's spiritual soul. The spiritual seal would at most weaken the sorcerer tribe member's spiritual soul for a period of time. Furthermore, it would also cause him to feel a piercing pain. It would not affect his spiritual soul too much. Although Zhuan's spiritual soul was powerful, it was not powerful enough to destroy someone's spiritual soul from a distance. He had only said that to threaten the young sorcerer tribe member. Chapter 33:27. The 10 great races. The 3 streams of light were very fast. They arrived at the plaza in the blink of an eye and landed on the empty space in front of the plaza. These 3 streaks of light were 3 mighty flying divine artifacts. After the 3 flying divine weapons stopped in front of the plaza, 3 groups of people walked down from the flying divine weapons. There were only a few people in each of the 3 groups. Zhuan was very familiar with one of the groups. The leader of this group was the Phoenix Lord, Feng Luo. In other words, this group represented the Phoenix people. Zhuan looked coldly at Grand Elder Mu Yu and Third Elder En Yen behind Feng Luo. These two fellows had left the Phoenix people with Mu Chenxue. After the two of them returned, Mu Chenxue was nowhere to be found. If there was a chance, Yuan would definitely capture these two and interrogate them about Mu Chenxue's whereabouts. Of course, the time was not ripe yet. If he rashly went up now, he would be courting death. All of this would have to wait until he obtained the ancestral which Gu Worm and his cultivation had increased greatly. Other than the Phoenix people, he actually knew people from the other two groups. One of the groups was the Moon Wolf Clan's group that he and Crepe Myrtle Star had just arrived at the Witch God City. He still remembered the old man leading the Moon Wolf Clan. It was the Moon Wolf Clan's patriarch, Itaiha. The young man and woman standing next to Itaiha should be the Moon Wolf Clan's top prodigies. They were called Tu Qian and Qian Ping. Qian Ping, in particular, had mocked Zhuan at the Witch God City's gate and called him a country bumpkin. Zhuan had a deep impression of this woman. In the other group, there was a young foreign race that he was familiar with. This foreign race was Shi Pu, who had wanted to make a deal with him at the trade fair. In other words, this group should be the Ghoul Clan's group. The Ghoul Clan's patriarch was similar to Shi Pu. He was as thin as a match and had a lifeless appearance. However, he looked much older than Shi Pu, like a dying old man. Brother Darkmarsh, Brother Taiha, long time no see. As soon as Feng Lilua got off the flying divine tool, she cupped her hands and greeted the leaders of the other two teams with great enthusiasm. Itaiha, the patriarch of the Moon Wolf Clan, smiled and responded to Feng Lilua politely. On the other hand, the chief of the Corpse Ghoul Clan, Corpse Inmarsh, seemed to have not heard Feng Lilua's voice. Instead, he asked meaningfully, "Brother Lilua, I heard that the base of the Phoenix people has been destroyed. You still have the mood to come to the shaman song gathering? Your heart is really strong." As soon as he said that, Itaiha, who had a calm expression, suddenly looked stunned. He didn't expect that the Phoenix people's nest would be destroyed. He didn't receive any news at all. Brother Darkmarsh, you might have heard fake news. The Phoenix people are fine. Who dares to attack the base of the Phoenix people? Unless they are tired of living. Feng Lilua laughed. However, Feng Lilua's smile was slightly forced. Even Feng Bumming, the Grand Elder, and the Third Elder, who were following behind her, looked unnatural. Itaiha saw some clues. He knew that Corpse Yinmarsh's words were not without reason. It might be true. Otherwise, the expressions of Feng Lilua and the others wouldn't have changed like that. At the same time, Itaiha was very curious. Who was it that dared to break into the Phoenix clan's nest and destroy them? This made him very interested in the culprit. Corpse Inmarsh sneered. Seeing that Feng Lilua didn't admit it, he didn't waste his breath on this matter. Instead, he stood aside and didn't say a word. On the other hand, Feng Lilua and Itaiha were whispering to each other and chatting quite harmoniously. After a while, another 4 streams of light flew over from afar. Naturally, they were 4 more flying divine tools. 4 teams walked down from the 4 flying divine tools. Zhuan basically recognized the races of the 4 teams because he had seen the 4 races in the star battlefield before. Therefore, he was very familiar with the auras of the 4 races. The 4 races were the Space-Time Beast race, the Merfolk race, the Dragon race, and the Black Tiger race. Speaking of which, the race that Zhuan had killed the most in the star battlefield was the Merfolk race. The Merfolk race's leader Su Long and Elder MDA, as well as the younger generation's geniuses Sauron, Thorpe, and Moses, were all killed by him. It could be said that the enmity between Zhuan and the Merfolk race was much greater than the enmity between the other races. It could be said that it was an irreconcilable blood feud. However, the Merfolk race would never have thought that the human youth who had killed so many of their people was now in the shaman race's shaman god city and was looking at them from below. The patriarchs of the 7 races who came were all familiar with each other. They had interacted with each other many times in the past. Therefore, as soon as they arrived at the square, they basically approached the patriarchs they were familiar with and began to chat enthusiastically. The juniors of these large clans were also familiar with each other as they gathered together and chatted in low voices. Shifu followed the corpse race. After arriving at the square, he did not take the initiative to chat with the other juniors. Some of the juniors were also quite fearful of the corpse pups and deliberately avoided them. Shifu did not care. His gaze was basically sweeping back and forth at the back of the square as if he was looking for something. Jun, who was standing at the back, saw Shifu's actions and knew that this fellow was definitely looking for him. Previously at the trade fair, he had brushed away Shifu's face and had already made Shifu bear a grudge. After the shaman song conference began, the first person Shifu looked for would be him. Juan did not deliberately avoid him. Instead, he looked straight at Shifu and quickly attracted Shifu's attention. Shifu looked coldly at Juan and revealed a sinister smile. He said in a low voice, "You have guts. Not only are you not afraid of me, but you also dare to face me. I like prey like you the most. After the shaman song conference begins, I hope you can let me play with you for a while. Don't die so easily." Although Zhuowen couldn't hear what Shifu was whispering, he could roughly understand the content of what Shifu was saying by reading his lips. He sneered in his heart and did not take Shifu's threat to heart. Although Shifu was very strong, it was nothing to the current Zhuowen. If he used his full strength, Shifu would simply be abused by him. If Shifu really encountered him at the shaman song conference, it could only mean that Shifu was unlucky. Time gradually passed. About a quarter of an hour later, 2 more streams of light flew over and landed in front of the square. The 2 races that came this time were the 9-tailed fox clan and the giant turtle clan of the 10 great races. Almost every member of the 9-tailed fox clan's group was a young and beautiful fox woman. They were a beautiful sight to behold in the plaza. Among them, Wu Qiutong was the most dazzling existence in this team. After all, Wu Qiutong was the most dazzling genius of the 9-tailed fox clan and the most beautiful woman in the clan. On the other hand, the giant turtle clan's members were all burly men wearing huge turtle shells. However, these burly men's skin was as rough and shriveled as the bark of a withered tree. The giant turtle clan was not good at attacking, but their defensive abilities were definitely far superior to most foreign races. They were natural defensive experts. At that moment, 9 of the 10 great races had already arrived. Only the last race was left, which was the shaman race. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.